Hello, everybody. We are here. We are on FIFA World Cup draw day. Kristian, Jack, Charlie, O'Connor, Clarke with you for at least 2 hours. And they are getting ready to see who Canada will be drawn in the FIFA World Cup. Lots of special guests. Our boys, Platt will be coming on soon. Alex Gangue-Ruzic will be coming on as well. We've got hopefully players coming on. We've got reaction. We've got lots of analysis from all over different continents as well. And we're with you. Bring your World Cup sim. We want to hear who you're going to get. Who do you want? Worst case scenario, best case scenario. Charlie, this is a pretty special day. No, great to be with you.
It really is. I said it on our show on Monday that this was kind of the moment that it was going to set in for me, and it really is. It feels kind of like Christmas. We've got 3 presents to unwrap. We're going to find out 3 teams that Canada's going to play at the World Cup. It's going to be incredible. You know, the whole world is tuning in. Every country that's qualified wants to know who they're drawing, and 3 of them are going to draw Canada, and that's going to be fantastic. The 3 massive football nations around the world are going to be talking for the next months leading up to the World Cup about Canada and this national team and how they stack up against them. So I just can't wait for this.
Yeah, already thousands of you joining us. I can't thank you enough. So many people from all around the world watching in, tuning in to see what's going to happen here. We're going to do a lot of talking about the World Cup today, what it means to people, first memories, World Cup draws. We're going to get a lot of guests on. It's very special. Before we do, for those who need a reminder, let's put up the graphic in terms of what we are looking at as we head into the World Cup draw today in Doha, Qatar. These are your pots for everybody paying attention and looking at Canada. You will see pot 1 are the seeded teams. They will all go into number 1. This is very important today. Remember this. They will all slot into number 1. Pots 2 do not slot automatically into number 2. Pots 3 do not do the same into 3 and 4. So Canada will not be necessarily slotted into number 4 in their group. That is important as we go through the next couple of hours as well. But you'll see how this works. The 8 teams in pot 1 will be assigned a group first. Then they will do 2. Then they will do 3. And then they will do 4. Again, if you're just paying attention for Canada, that is also important. Wherever Mexico and the United States are designated immediately in pot 2, that means you will not get that group. You cannot play with Mexico. You cannot play with the United States as you are partly in a CONCACAF region. So obviously you can't play that team from there as well. Keep an eye on that. And there is a chance, probably around 12:50 p.m. Eastern, that Canada will be looking at 3 potential scenarios. And we'll all be thinking, which one are we going to fall into here? So there you go. They're the pots. They're your groups. And let's put in the chat what you want. Let's bring in our guests, Ollie and Alex, part of the family. Great to see them. Alex, Alex is in Toronto. Oliver is still in Costa Rica. I don't know if he's applied for his citizenship yet, but he's still there. Ollie, how are you feeling, mate?
Not too bad. I think, hoping I'm going home tomorrow. So there's a wave of optimism rushing over me now that I'm nearly out of this. Not that Costa Rica isn't a lovely place, just not quite the circumstances I wanted to spend a couple of weeks here.
No, for those who missed it, Ollie was our reporter extraordinaire and analyst who went to Costa Rica for match day 12 in the CONCACAF World Cup qualifying final round. It feels like about 4 weeks ago to us. Feels like probably 10 months ago to Ollie. And then failed test. Has been fine the entire time and has remained in Costa Rica. Did get to watch Costa Rica play the United States, which was at least one small thing. Alex, welcome to the family. Recently signed by One Soccer. Great to have you on board. Couldn't be happier, my man. It's fantastic to have you. What is the most exciting part of today for you? Oh, can we hear him? I think he
can't hear you.
Pardon. There we go. Hot start for me there on mute. But for me, it's just going to be when Canada, you see the word Canada on screen and they pull that name out of the pod. That's going to be the most exciting part. That's really when you're going to be like, it's real. You have opponents. You're going to be at the World Cup later this year. Right now it is real. You've made it, but it almost doesn't feel real. It's like, did they really qualify a few days ago? Were we all there for that? Well, when they have a pot and, they're in a group, that's when you realize, okay, they're going to be at the World Cup later this year.
Yeah, it's so true. Look, people are asking when is the draw starting. Officially starts at noon Eastern, wherever you are watching in the world. Expect some random dodgy dancing and music played for about 15 minutes. I would imagine that's usually how these draws go down. Right, Ollie, we've been witnessing many of those.
I think that's an optimistic prediction, to be honest with you. Triple that time frame, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, what usually happens is they tell you it starts at 12. And then they bring out some random introductions and famous people shake hands and music gets played. And then it starts around 12:25 or 25 after the hour. And then they just rush it. And everyone's like, can you just slow down a minute? I need to just sample what's happening. But meanwhile, they've rushed everything through. So that's Charlie O'Connor Clarke. You were saying to me before we came on, you've been reading some newspapers around the world, including in Germany, and they don't want Canada. They think that's the group of death in pot 4. Is this correct, Charlie? Charlie's frozen right now, so maybe he'll just maybe he's so stunned that Canada's been put into Germany's group.
He looks happy.
He looks happy. Maybe he can reset and come back on. Ollie, let me ask you this: what is your hopes for Canada? Do you want a world star team? Do you want the easiest path? What are you thinking as you're heading into this one?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. I think for me, the ideal kind of draw would be getting one real glamour team, maybe out of pot 1, or it could be pot 2 because Germany and Netherlands are both in there. And then the rest of it being like a feasible pathway that Canada could potentially qualify for the knockout round, right? I think that you get a nice balance if you have that, of being able to play a real powerhouse and having that kind of, experience and be a massive game for the country that everyone would be watching, obviously. Yeah. But then still having that hope that you can make the last 16 if the other two teams that come out are a bit more manageable. I think that would be the ideal for me.
Alex, what about you?
Yeah, for me, I think as much as you'd want the hosts in pot 1, it would be nice to get a big team like a France, a Brazil. I think especially France would be one. I think if you're going to throw it back to 1986, it would be fun to have a rematch, maybe an opening match day if the pots align that. And then I'd say from pot 2, maybe a mid-tier team, preferably not from UEFA. It would be nice to have one of the groups when you only have one team for UEFA for balance. And then, like Ollie says, pot 3, something where you look and you're like, okay, we can play this game and we have a chance. We look on paper, we're not worried. I mean, the nice thing is with how Canada's played, there aren't that many teams where you're looking like Canada's screwed. That they're not that team anymore. They've shown that they'll be able to compete with at least compete with most teams, if not all of them on their day. So I don't think there's any teams you're sitting looking at like we do not want at all costs, but it would be nice to get that big team in pot 1 and then a nice little balance, maybe just one UEFA team, kind of get a nice little world group going.
Yeah, world group's always good. I love the world groups for sure. Charlie, before you froze in amazement of Canada's qualification for the World Cup,
I know.
I was asking you about you reading your German media this morning or yesterday, where you said that they put together even Germany are afraid a little bit of Canada. They go, let's put that on record. We've made it. They did not want a group of death, and they picked Canada out of pot 4 to have their group of death.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants any part of Canada at the moment. Of the pot 4 teams especially, I think that's probably, not knowing who's coming through the playoffs, there are some very good teams, especially in the UEFA playoff. There are some very good teams in there. But of those teams in pot 4, I think Canada is not one that these countries want to face. I think I saw it was one of the German newspapers or TV stations kind of speculating it. They were saying that the hardest group that Germany could draw would be Brazil, Germany, Senegal, and Canada. And I think that's a pretty tough group for everybody involved. So, but you guys are talking about what you want to see. I think that I agree about wanting one of those big marquee games, but I think I want it to be Germany from pot 2 and get Qatar from pot 1.
Qatar, yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, I think if you pull your big game from pot 2, then I think that's the perfect balance of Canada having a group they can get some points in and getting that big game. Because again, for me, Germany is one of the teams that I've always associated with big moments of the World Cup. I think one of the first World Cups I can remember really being into was 2006 in Germany. So they're a team that I've always loved to watch at the World Cup, and I think that's kind of the big matchup that I want to see, especially just Alphonso Davies against a lot of his friends, against Joshua Kimmich would be a lot of fun.
We'll get Davies on later. Actually, he's joining us just to give us a little bit of who he wants in the draw after one of my chats with him recently. Germany got knocked out of the group last time. They're not getting knocked out of the group this time, lads. So, that's the big concern for me. We're not having back-to-back disasters for the Germans at the World Cup. The other thing I would counter with Qatar, and I hear everybody, is only one host ever, and that was South Africa in 2010, didn't get out the group by hosting it. And sometimes we saw even with Russia in 2018, sometimes there's just a bit of mojo on their side. You know,
they're not a bad side either.
Right. We saw them in the Gold Cup
pretty darn good.
on One Soccer, right, Ollie? So they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that obviously Brazil, Belgium, France, Argentina, England, Spain,
I would still rather play them than Brazil.
Yes,
yeah, I get it. Any of you guys been on this World Cup simulator deep dive rabbit hole here? How many of you done, Alex?
Constantly.
You know what? I've tried to hold off just to kind of, I feel like when you do a lot of those draws, they're fun, but it's kind of almost, everything becomes too predictable. So I've done exactly 2 draws since Canada has qualified. So
and the latest one was, who did Canada get in the latest one that you did?
All right, I have it here. It's Argentina, Netherlands, Senegal, which is just
that's like mine. I got Argentina, Germany, Senegal. I was like, goodness gracious, I don't want to do any more of these. Ollie, what about you? What have you got on yours?
Well, funnily enough, I just opened it up for the first time just before I came on here, and very similar: Portugal, Germany, Senegal. So try that one.
I'm gonna run one right now. I'm gonna run one right now.
Can we not with Senegal?
Let's avoid Senegal because for me they're the best team in pot 3.
Okay. I got Canada in Group G with Argentina, Denmark, and Serbia.
Oh, it's not great either.
I don't want any part of Denmark.
Yeah, the Danes are the Danes are a crowdsourcing team. They're obviously with Ericsson. They're a nice team. Semi-finals in the Euros as well. I think the more I look at it, I think I just don't imagine. And you guys have probably done more of these draws than I have, but I just don't imagine. I don't see ever a group where Canada go, oh, that's pretty good. Like there's going to be a tough game here somewhere. No, because when you look at pot 2, you know, like. Yeah. They're not going to get the Mexicans or the Americans. So it's like, unless, I don't know, someone wants to make an argument that, let's take Qatar and Croatia and South Korea or something. That might be something. But even then, you've still got the Croatians who finished second, Charlie, last time.
Yeah, it's the World Cup. There are good teams there. That's kind of the point. So I part of the beauty of qualifying for the World Cup is you get to play the best teams in the world. So you are not going to have an easy run through a group. And that's what Canada wants. That's what they want, these tests. So, you know, there's going to be at least one by the odds, probably 2 teams that are very established and good footballing teams. And, you know, all the best Canada can do is show up and play the same way that they've been playing, because it's going to be the biggest test yet.
No doubt about it. Let's talk a little bit about the World Cup, what it means to everybody. I mean, everyone knows, like, everyone has their own World Cup, right? It's just that special moment. You don't forget it. And, I had posters on my wall in the 1990 World Cup of Lothar Matthäus. I know he was German. I don't care. He played England. They knocked us out. I don't care. He was one of my favorite players. Fernando Hierro. David Platt was my guy at Villa. He scored the goal in 1990 against Belgium. Ollie, what does World Cups mean to you? When did you start falling in love with them?
The first one I remember is 98, France 98. I think Euro 96 in England is probably like the earliest football thing I can remember, but it's, I was 3 or 4 years old, so it's pretty vague. Yeah. So France 98 was the one where, you just, in England, it's the whole world stops for a month, right? Watching England at a major tournament. So that was a probably an appropriate introduction of what watching England has been like at tournaments for most of my lifetime. A little bit of hope and optimism, and then just catastrophic disaster to end it in some way. Yeah. So it took me a long time to forgive Diego Simeone for that tournament. But yeah, that's the one I remember that was, I think for a lot of people, how you kind of, maybe even how you get into football for the first time, but certainly how you fall in love with it and everything that's so special about it. And, how the whole world watches it is a World Cup, right? It's watching your first World Cup.
There's really nothing like it, right, Alex? Like, we can talk about the club game, way, way, way accelerating above the international game now in terms of tactics and, speed of the game and how much it brings, quality on the pitch and training, and the best coaches are there. But at the end of the day, this is still the elite. This is when countries come together and you play for the best tournament that you can play in sports, right?
Oh, no, there's nothing like it. I just love about international soccer, for example. It's like you don't have a choice over the players you bring necessarily. Like if you're weak at a certain position in the national team, you could have 8 stars and be weak in goal, for example,
Yeah.
like that. You have no control. It really brings a lot out of managers, just because you're not sitting there looking like, well, I have a terrible goalkeeper, let's go buy, spend 80 million on the best goalkeeper in the world. You do not have that luxury. So you kind of got to work with what you have, grow through it. So it really takes a lot out of coaches to maximize their player pool, something we've seen John Herdman do a lot of over the last few years. And then there's just the fact that, it's easy to reunite behind a country. You can talk about clubs and what clubs represent. At the end of the day, when it comes to representing a country, say like Canada, we're all Canadian at the end of the day. We can all reunite around that and really come together and share the fact that we're Canadian and support the Canadian teams. So I think that's the most special part about it, is putting that aside, and just, it almost means more knowing the fact that, like, I'm Canadian. When it's a club, you can almost think in the back of your head, like, oh, I could ditch these guys next week if I wanted. Like, I'm not getting rid of Canada so easily. So you kind of feel that attachment to wanting to support Canada.
What about you, Charlie? What about your connection to the World Cup? First memories, love of it?
Yeah, it's incredible. I think one of my clearest kind of childhood memories. Again, revealing my age, but like the first World Cup that I really remember was 2006. I was about 9 years old, and I remember when it was Italy-France in the final. We were on a family camping trip, and I begged my parents to take us to a pub in some town to watch the game. And I didn't expect the game to be on. I thought we'd have to, ask for it to be put on. We get into this tiny pub in some tiny town in Northern Ontario, and we get in, it's packed out the door, like overflowing. And we just watched that game. And that was the Zidane headbutt, which was stunning. I had no idea that was even possible in a football match, and then Italy win on penalties. It was fantastic. Everybody, I think, as Ollie said, the World Cup is where people fall in love with football. And the other thing that I love about the World Cup is its unique ability to create stars. Every single tournament, there are players, especially from some of the smaller teams or the lower ranked teams. There are players that stand out, and players that get massive club moves or, burst onto the scene because of how they played at the World Cup. I think Arturo Vidal was a big one. A few World Cups back, he got some attention for playing in I think it was 2014. He had a big one. But every year, I think Samuel Eto'o, there are tons of players that come out of the World Cup and immediately become massive international stars because of what they do, especially what they do against teams like England or Brazil or Germany. These players that these countries hadn't really thought of, hadn't really heard of, and then they come and they play well against those teams, and their career skyrockets from there. And that's something that's going to be big for Canada as well. They're going to have players in MLS going to the World Cup, and they're going to play against massive teams, and that's how you get those moves, right?
Go ahead, Ollie.
Yeah, and you also see, I think that's a great point, because you also see players who are, we know are world class, but maybe don't get that kind of role for their clubs. And we're going to see that with Alfonso, right? He's a left back for Bayern, but he's going to be the star for Canada. And like one I think back to is James Rodriguez, like clearly a world-class player, but when he's playing for Real Madrid, he's got 3 other guys that he's got to defer to. And then you see him play for Colombia and he's the number 10 and everything goes through him, and he's absolutely sensational, right? So it does have that different way of bringing out the best in players that we know are fantastic players, but maybe we don't see quite in the same way because the top clubs are so stacked with talent these days.
Yeah,
like when you watch David Alaba for Arsenal.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's that World Cup tax. I remember it many years ago. Solenko got 5 goals in the game, and everyone thought he was the best striker in the world. And then it was like, oh, actually, it's not a good game, lads. You know what I mean? Like, but to your point, I think that's why I think I want Canada to get a top team. Imagine imagine Alistair Johnston just having a worldie against Neymar or something and just stopping it. You know what I mean? Like, it'll add like £2 or £3 million on his transfer fee. In England, someone's going to buy him, right, Alex? Like, this is just what some of these players are going to be thinking about. They're looking. John Herdman has said this week he went out of his way. He wasn't asked. He went out of his way to tell everybody we need more players playing at tier 1 clubs and in international football, playing in Europe. To get to that level where they want to get to. And this is going to be a fantastic chance for some of these players to play against elite teams, hopefully, if they can get one, Alex.
Well, I was going to say, if Alistair Johnston pockets Neymar, I think 2 or 3 million is being a bit generous in terms of adding to the transfer value. But no, I agree wholeheartedly. One nice thing with Canada is that they come in with stars, in the sense that Alphonso Davies and to a certain extent Jonathan David, and who knows, maybe there'll be another one by the end of the year that's globally a star, like people that, in the casual European, market people know of. People are going to be like, okay, let's go watch Jonathan David and Alphonso Davies and how they get on. Oh, they're playing in Germany, they're playing in Argentina or Brazil. And then you discover the one player, I think, for example, that'll have a huge World Cup is Sam Adekugbe. You look how good he's been throughout the years. Yeah. Like, oh, who's this Sam Adekugbe guy? Where does he play? Oh, he plays in Turkey. Interesting. Like, maybe this is someone we should be knowing more about. Or Alistair Johnson, of course, is an easy one. Or, of course, Stefan Eustáquio and some of the other younger players too, like a Tajon Buchanan. I think he'll be huge for those players, especially guys like those ones I mentioned who have made a habit of stepping up in big games for Canada. I mean, if we're going to look at, the World Cup run that they're on, yes, Davies had a huge role. David had a huge role, but Kyle Laren's the one who led CONCACAF in goal scoring. It's Sam Adekugbe who made such a big impact on the left-hand side. It's Alistair Johnson who played every game in the final round. And if I'm not mistaken, all but one of the World Cup qualifiers. Like, it's these guys who really got Canada where they are. So I think they'll shine, and it'll be good for them to have that sort of platform to show that, okay, maybe these Canadian guys, they can make there's not just Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David. There's a lot more that could make an impact at big teams.
We have an incredible amount of people watching from all over the world. I know the chat's just going crazy. If you're watching, put in the chat the country you're from. I'd love to give you a shout out. Please just put the country that you're watching in from. And it's great to see some people from Iran, from England, from Ghana. Lots of people coming in the chat so far. Germany. So just keep putting it in there and let us know where you're from, and we'll give you a shout out. Alex and Ollie are going to run shortly. Before I get back to you guys, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think about. I want to come back to you and ask you your dream group. Dream group, no simulator, fantasy. Who's your dream group? Give you a couple of minutes on that for a second, and then I'll come back to you before we let you go. But Charlie, we've been seeing Colombia here, Mexico, Portugal, Wales, Serbia. This is truly an international chat here today. Here, Scotland, obviously
Hamilton, Canada,
Hamilton, Ontario, which is home for the brilliant game for the United States. Got beat there by Canada as well. But this is what the World Cup does, Charlie. This is what brings people together.
That's what it's all about. It's the greatest convergence of the world, on any level. This is the World Cup's better than the UN. This is the world coming together. This is the world coming together. This is what brings everybody. It's the thing that stops the entire world and makes everybody start watching. From bars in Canada and the US to the other side of the world, to Asia, to Africa, to Europe. Everywhere in the world will be watching, and there are going to be millions, billions of people watching Canada play at a World Cup. That is still surreal to me.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know I did the World Cup for TSN in 2018, and we had every game live. And one of the mandates that I set out right from the start was, first of all, how many countries are represented within our country? There were so many people. Whenever we did a game, 32 countries, I said, we have to understand that there's fans in Canada from that country that know that country better than anybody else. It wasn't just concentrating on one club or one team. And that's the beauty of Canada. But as we're seeing today, we're seeing lots of people supporting teams across the world. Shout out to Nigeria, Mexico, Trinidad, Iran coming in again. This is fantastic. So many people coming into this. Again, keep putting the countries in that you want and your dream groups. I want to see them as well. Talking of dream groups, before we let the One Soccer strikers up top leave for the chat here, Alex, who have you got for your dream group that you want to see today? Who's your fantasy for today?
Well, after much pondering, I think I'll just go pot by pot. Pot one for Canada, I want France. I've decided that this morning. I want the 86 rematch. I want Mbappe versus Davies. And hey, not saying that'll happen to France, but the World Cup champions curse is a thing for a reason. So I think maybe Canada could steal a point or three off of France if just based on past history. France is a tough team. I'm not saying that's gonna it's something that's gonna happen like that, but I think it would be a good test for Canada. Good marquee game. Pot two, I want Uruguay. I think I want that South American team. I want that feistiness of Uruguay. I think Canada will really like a game like that where you're dealing with Luis Suarez and Edison Cavani and some of the other, really just the sort of players that Uruguay has, where there's a lot of talent, but there's also that grittiness that I think Canada likes to emulate as well. I think that'll be a fun matchup. And then for pot 3, I'm torn between 2 teams. So I'll just split it. I'll go Morocco just for some African representation, but also not Senegal because Senegal is very good. But in terms of Morocco, it's more of a matchup you're looking at. If you're Canada, you're a little more excited. You still get the, Davies versus Ashraf Hakimi, for example.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe they somehow get Hakim Ziyech back out of the woodwork. I doubt it based on the stories going on there. If not, I'm going. I want South Korea. Heung-min Son, Alphonso Davies. Korea is just a fun team. I think it would be a very entertaining game.
A true World Cup draw right there, all around the continents. I love it. Ollie, what about you, mate?
Yeah, well, I had 2, and one was pretty much identical to what Alex had there. I would really like to see them play Uruguay as well. I'd like to see them play a South American team generally, but Uruguay is just one I always like Tabarez's teams and the combination of like skill and just a ton of grit and aggression that they have. So that's a really good one, but I'll give you my other alternative, which I think is Qatar coming out of pot 1 and Canada playing in the opening game against Qatar, ideally.
Oh, yeah.
Germany out of pot 2. Just to get that big marquee kind of glamour matchup, and obviously all the links with Davies and his Bayern teammates. And then pot 3, someone that we think we can beat, right? Tunisia or Morocco, someone along those lines. I think that would be, like I said, a decent combination of getting a really exciting match against Germany, but also a potential pathway through to the next round.
I like that. I like both of those. My mate James says England, Germany, Japan, Canada. Yikes. I don't know what he wants to do. That's a terrible
England and Germany in the group stage. Are you kidding?
I don't know. I don't like that for England or Canada. That would just break my heart, that draw. Alex, again, congrats for joining the One Soccer family. Cannot be happier for you, man. It's fantastic to have you on board. Ollie, you're on again shortly, I think right after the draw, right? With Andy and Wheels and maybe John Herdman and everybody else. What's coming up for you right at 1 o'clock, I think?
Yeah, we'll be reacting to whatever happens in... How long is it now? An hour and a half's time. And yeah, I think we've got John Herdman coming on to react to the draw. So it'd be good to hear his thoughts on everything.
Fantastic. Maybe in the 90 minutes before you can finally pack your bag and check in for a plane tomorrow, mate. Maybe that'd be
fingers crossed. Don't want to jinx
fingers crossed. Safe travels, Ollie. You're the best. Alex, thanks again
Cheers.
for joining us. That's great. That's Oliver Platt, Alex Gangue-Ruzic from One Soccer. Before we get to our next guest, who is instrumental in Canada's history, we talk about dream groups. I spoke to Alphonso Davies recently, who he would love to have in his group. His answer wasn't quite as predictable as you thought. Here you go. What about the World Cup draw? Have you allowed yourself to dream about that? Who would you? Germany in the group? Would that be pretty special for you? Messi? What do you think?
Honestly, if we have Germany in the group, it'll be nice, to play against my teammates. I have a couple of teammates that are, every time I tell them I'm going to a national team, who you playing, and I tell them who we're playing, they giggle a little bit because they don't really see Canada as a footballing country. And now to make it to an actual World Cup, to the World Cup and play against these guys, prove to them that, we have some talent on this, in North America. It's in Canada, it would be amazing. So I'm excited.
Fantastic from Fonzie. You could see just fresh, he just wants Germany. I love it. It's seeking respect a little bit from his teammates as well. All right. Yeah. As many of you know, Canada made the World Cup once before. This was not the first time. In 1986, a historic team did everything they needed to do to get to the World Cup and went to Mexico. And I'm delighted now to be joined by a crucial member of that team, a friend of mine, Paul Dolan from Vancouver. You can hear him on the Whitecaps broadcast as well. Dolly, how are you, mate?
Great, KJ. How you doing?
Great, mate. It's a special day. No, let's start with that. How does this feel for you? Does it take back any memories to that time in '85 when you're thinking about the draw? What's this moment like for you, mate?
There's no memories because I don't remember us even having a draw, to be honest. It was all about getting in there. There wasn't the pomp and circumstance that you had now. I wouldn't be surprised if it was done in a back room and we found out later. But when we finally did hear the names of the teams that we were going to be drawn with, France, the reigning European champions, Hungary, who was a very strong team at the time, and then the USSR that went on to play in the Euro Championship in '88, just a couple of years later, with one of my heroes at the time, Ronet Desayev, in goal. Yeah, it was daunting to say the least.
Yeah, that was a tough group for Canada back then. I mean, only 1-0 against France, I think, was fairly impressive at the time. But from a player's perspective, when you do go into a draw like this and you're waiting to hear who you're playing against, what do you want? Like, do you think that the Canadian players right now want the big teams? They want Argentina, Brazil, or do they want, the easier draw, the games that they think that they're going to win?
Well, it's a good question. That's the one that everyone's talking about right now. I think at the end of the day, if you're not going to win the World Cup, and I'm not here to say that Canada's not going to win the World Cup. I'm not here to say that they are going to win it. But the way that this team is competing now, the way that world football is right now, it's not like it was back in 1986 or even before that, where you had teams, let's say in 1982, where the CONCACAF representative in El Salvador lost by 10 goals. That just doesn't happen on the world stage anymore. So truly, anything could happen. Although historically, you look at World Cups, and 9 times out of 10, the favorites generally get through and end up winning in the final. But if you're not going in thinking, we're absolutely going to win this World Cup and we have every chance to if we get a more favorable draw, don't you want to play against the very best teams in the world? I think you do. I think you, especially ahead of 2026, not to dismiss 2022 at all, as John Herdman certainly didn't. Going into this qualifying round, many people were saying, well, this is preparation for 2026. And clearly, they had a goal to get into the World Cup and actually qualify rather than just be given a host spot. So I think I want to see them play against the best teams. And what a thrill it would be, I think, to play against the Brazils or the Argentinas or the Englands of the world, rather than, say, a Qatar if you happen to get into that group.
Talking of that, Dola, you were the goalie for that game against France. You played Platini. I think Valentine at the bar. They scored late. I mean, they were just obviously very much notes that I've kind of remembered and written down and thought myself. That's just notes for me. You lived it, mate. What was that like? What was that like preparing for it in Lyon, coming out of the tunnel, seeing Platini and the French over there, running them close? What are your memories from that match?
They're kind of flooding back a little bit now. It's been a long drought. And every 4 years we get asked the questions, why haven't we qualified? What was it like back then? And you kind of gloss over them a little bit because Canada's not there. But the fact that we will have kids in that tunnel now, looking across at the best players in the world, testing themselves at the big stage, it is bringing back memories for me. And it was an incredible feeling. I was only 20 years old at the time and maybe a bit naive. So I didn't feel the pressure necessarily. I think Canada, the expectations weren't necessarily there as well for us to even win a game. So the fact that we could kind of go out and just express ourselves and be the underdog was one thing. I think this Canadian team goes into this tournament now with a bit higher expectation, not to win it all, but I know John Herdman's got no caps on the squad. He wants them to be the first team to score, be the first team to get a point or a win, and possibly get out of the group. So not just make up the numbers, but compete there. But, when I look back to it, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I like the fact, too, that within the game, I had the presence of mind to feel that at the time. I didn't want the 90 minutes to rush by, so I didn't concede a goal. There was a period of time during the game where I said to myself, I'm really enjoying this and I don't want it to end. So I cherish the fact that I was able to play in a World Cup and look back to it. And I'm actually more excited now thinking with Canada going back about having played in 86 than over the last, 36 years ago.
Fantastic. That's a great point because there's going to be a moment when it ends, when the World Cup is over, when Canada's not involved anymore, and I'm not looking forward to that moment at all. But Paul, you mentioned kind of bringing up memories, and we've heard from lots of former national team players over the last few days, weeks, months about what this all means to them. What's it been like for you, kind of watching this generation of this national team, this qualification run? Like, it has to be kind of special to be seeing this coming back, right?
It's been phenomenal. It's almost been like a 20-part mini series or limited series that you watch on TV, and you start to get to know the characters. I had the opportunity to work with a lot of them as recently as the 2019 Gold Cup when I was a goalkeeper coach. So for me, especially to see a guy like Milan, who I worked with, or to see a guy like Atiba, who really is, not only the best player Canada's ever produced, but the best person. And I was so happy for him at the final whistle. But as we progressed through the stages and to see the quality that was coming through, and then to get players dropping out of the tree, it almost seemed like, one after another, a pipeline like we've never seen before. The excitement just begins to bubble. And of course, it all culminates on Sunday when the CSA, I was grateful that they brought me into Toronto for the final game to do the Guard of Honor for the team to have the clinching game there in Toronto in front of so many fans that were passionate Canadian supporters. I never thought I'd see the day, and it was a massive moment for me personally to have been a part of, and I know for the country, it's the biggest day in Canadian soccer.
I was so happy to see you on the pitch. You got a big cheer as well, introduced as a member of that 86 team. I was like glowing. I was like so proud of you, man. It was awesome. You mentioned Gold Cup. You know, you're an analyst. You work as an analyst. You read the game really well. But you can take us behind the scenes a little bit. You know, this group that you've talked about in the past, now that have done it, you've been with them in 2019. That was kind of a difficult one because they had to learn how to lose hard. Basically, you know, that obviously took up 2-0 at halftime against Haiti in the quarterfinal, and then they collapsed in the second half. A lot of teams, Dolly, have success based on losing, right? They probably had to go through that in the end, but you know, the group stages were still pretty good. You rode Mexico really well in that game. What were your memories of that and getting in, you know, a different look at John Herdman and his staff about how they manage these players?
Well, I can't say enough about how prepared John Herdman and the staff is, and the commitment. You talk about the commitment from the players, which of course is there undoubtedly. The staff commitment is, I've never seen anything like it. And, you know, as much as you hate to lose, and I never want to put a spin on a loss, but John said the same thing after the Costa Rica game, and I'm sure he will after the Panama game as well. Although, you know, that's really an outlier for me, the last game, considering the celebrations that went on Sunday night. But after the Costa Rica game, he said, you know, this is an opportunity for us to assess and see how we could change some things. And you need a setback every now and, you know, obviously that Haiti game where Canada was up 2-0 and loses in the knockout stage at the Gold Cup in Houston was a bitter pill to swallow. But he and the staff and the players certainly learned from that. And they took those learnings and helped develop themselves into a team that went virtually undefeated through the 20 games up until the last couple. But you know, I think it's good every now and then to have a little bit of a setback so that you can reassess the things that you need to work on. You don't want to win everything and think that you're, you know, unbeatable. And the fact that they were able to kind of come back after the Costa Rica game and even come back from a man down in the Costa Rica game to boss that second half shows what kind of character the squad has.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of character, and I think that's something that comes up every time we see them play. But you know, Paul, I think you more than most people can understand how far the game and the program has come in the last years, even decades. The 1985 qualifying team, the 86 World Cup team that you were part of, was very different to the program as it is now, right? Can you maybe just shed some light on what is different about the sport and the national team program now in Canada and just how much it's changed over the years?
I think the biggest thing right now, I talked about the players seemingly coming from nowhere, a pipeline that seems endless right now. That just wasn't the case back then. The North American Soccer League was the feeder to that World Cup team, and having that there, and the inspiration for me as a young player who was a massive Whitecap fan when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. I had season tickets from 1976 when I was 10 up until they won the championship in 79, and then they folded in 83 or 84, I guess it was. But, you know, up until that period, you had something to strive for, to shoot for. And there were so many Canadian players playing in the North American Soccer League. That really was the ultimate goal from a club level. And I think that really helped breed a lot of the players playing at high levels against some very good players in that league as well, to become the basis for that Canadian national team in 1985 that qualified for 86. And then there was a period of time when there was no professional league and not a lot to strive for, and difficulty for Canadian players to play overseas, including myself, even after the World Cup. Without a European passport, it was really difficult to find a club anywhere outside of North America. And I ended up playing indoor soccer, which really shouldn't happen. But now you've got players playing worldwide in some of the biggest leagues, and players coming through Major League Soccer as well, which has been a terrific feeder system. The Canadian Premier League now is in place. So I don't think since 85 in the North American Soccer League, we've ever had a base like this to help continue to provide the players down the pipeline.
Great point. You know, it's just an amazing time for people over here to have, as you mentioned, that the pipeline that they have, the Canadian Premier League now giving these young players opportunities, Major League Soccer. You know, it's incredible to hear your story. An outstanding goalkeeper playing in the World Cup and then having to go play indoors. It's just very different right now. You know, I'm just so glad you're able to enjoy it. Last one from me, mate. Do you have a dream group? Do you have a dream opponent? Have you looked at it and gone, that's what I want my Canadian boys to do. I want them to play them.
Not specifically, but going back to, I think, one of the first questions you asked me about Canada, would they rather play against the tough opponents or the ones that aren't as high ranked? And I would rather play against, personally now, I would like to see Canada play against the best teams in the world and see how they fare against the Brazils or the Germanys or teams like that. Before the 1994 World Cup, Canada had a chance to play against Brazil. Different scenario, of course. They're not using their first team players necessarily, although it was a very good squad. And in front of 55,000 in Edmonton, Canada drew 1-1. And that was like our World Cup, having not qualified in 1994. Now, if you were able to play them at the world stage in the highest level in a neutral site as well, which I think needs to be taken into consideration as well, I think we could do well against them. I'm not saying we're beating Brazil, but I think you want to test yourself against those best teams. And so that's what I'm looking forward to.
I think that's
fantastic
what we
stuff.
all want to see.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Dolly, I can't appreciate it this time enough, man. It's been fantastic to talk to you, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot more requests to reminisce about 1986 and the build-up to the end of the year when finally we go to Qatar. But you're still the only goalkeeper to start Canada's first ever World Cup game, and you'll always be that, my man. You're a special guy as well, and good luck this weekend with the Whitecaps game as well, and all the best to you and your family.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's been great seeing you guys, great to be on, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
We certainly will. The great Paul Dolan from Vancouver, BC. It was great to see him on the pitch on Sunday as well. Thanks again to him for joining us as he was there. So say thanks to the players in that Guard of Honor as well, which was really special, wasn't it, Charlie? I mean, you were there in the press box. I was on the pitch. That was a special moment for the Canadian players to get that Guard of Honor with so many former players and legends.
Yeah, and I think it was really important to kind of recognize, sort of brought it into perspective, just how long it's been, what's kind of come before this team, and what this program and the sport in this country has been through to get to this point. It was important to recognize all of these people, all these players that have committed so much to a national team program when it was not very rewarding to do so. You know, it used to be a real chore to go and play for Canada, especially if you were playing in Europe. You come over to Canada and you'd, I don't know, lose to Honduras, and that's it's not the same anymore quite, but you have to be super appreciative of what these people and these players have done for the sport in this country, because we wouldn't be here at this point without them.
Yeah, no doubt. It's one of those days, and there's lots of people chatting. It's great to see so many comments. I'm on my phone trying to get a few guests to come on here as well. Hopefully, people have got snacks and drinks, and comments just flooding in. As I said, put down on the comments. Where you're from, where you're joining us from, your dream group. Tons of people joining in on the chat here as we get set to find out who will be placed in what group in the pots today. That would be fantastic. I just ran another simulator and got the same thing, so I think I'm done. It was Argentina, Germany, and Senegal again for Canada. Just brutal, by the way. So I let me do one more here. Let's see.
I just got Argentina, Croatia, and Morocco. That's not bad.
Okay.
I would take that.
You take that? Okay. What about? Would you take this? I just got France, Uruguay, Japan, Canada.
Oh, that's interesting. Japan are not bad.
I know.
Japan are not a bad team.
They're not a bad team.
Yeah, again, it's setting in that there are a lot of good teams at the World Cup. We're gonna have to play them.
I know we're gonna have to get somebody in Canada, that's for sure. But yeah, we got our boy Janusz Michallik coming on in a second. Nick, do you want to just do me a favor, producer Nick Van Der Zee? Do you want to put out the board again and just remind people who's in these pots if we can get it up there, because lots of people are joining us so often. There it is. This is a reminder of your FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022 pots. A reminder how it will go today. Shortly at the top of the clock, the pots will be drawn out. Who will go in which group first from pot 1? They are your 8 seeded teams, 7 best teams according to FIFA World Cup rankings, and of course the hosts, Qatar. They will all be placed in different groups. So we'll go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H, and then we'll go through the pots 2. We will pull out a team, and they'll find out what group they go in, and then you've also got to find out what slot they go in as well. A reminder, the slots are important. Even though the game schedule has not been announced yet, meaning the kickoff times, we do know the order of the games. That is pretty crucial as well. 1 plays 2, 3 plays 4. Second match day, 1 plays 3, 4 plays 2. And then the fourth match day, 4 plays 1 and 2 plays 4. Crucial, very crucial, as we see how these games go today in the order of the games that they play is very important as well. The pot 2 is, for Canada's point of view, important. Mexico and the United States will not be in your group. So as pot 1 develops and pot 2 ultimately develops after it, the moment you see Mexico and US go into a group, you can scratch that off as your potential Canada group. They cannot play that group. So just keep an eye on that. That will develop. Pot 3, that will then be placed as well. And another reason for Canada, I guess, being put in pot 4 that is pretty important with the draw is that they will be one of the last teams to find out. They could well be the last. We don't know yet, but they will be one of the last teams to find out their destinations and their opponents and all of this as well. So exciting times, Charlie, as we look at that. It's starting to become real, right?
It really is. It really is. I also want to give another quick shout out to just how many people are watching this and in the chat, and it's so exciting. I just heard from our friend Armin at One Soccer that this is apparently currently the most watched draw watch party in the world on YouTube right now.
Welcome.
So thank you to everybody that's watching at home across the world. This is fantastic. We're enjoying it, and it's just so exciting to have Canada in the draw.
Yeah, welcome. I mean, and as I said, this is the World Cup for the world. We are based in Canada. We are wondering what's going to happen for Canadians, but we are excited for your team. I can't say enough. Iran, Ecuador, Belgium, Germany, France, they're all in the chat, all excited to watch what is coming up next to see who you're going to get. And we'll be here with you. We're going to watch it with you. We're going to put the groups up. We're going to find out what's going on. This is going to be exciting. But wow, Sri Lanka, shout out to them as well. People in Montreal, we can't forget our Canadians here as well.
Bangladesh,
Tunisia, it's fantastic. So we're hopeful of my buddy Janusz Michallik joining us in a second. Let me just message him as we go. But Charlie, that's incredible numbers. Incredible.
Yeah, it absolutely is. This is, again, the power of the World Cup, the power that Canada qualifying for a World Cup can have. We have spoken about it before it happened. We've spoken about it since it happened, but the sport is never the same. The country's never the same after you qualify for that World Cup. It's just exploding, and we're already seeing it maybe even faster than we expected. So I can't believe it.
Yeah, exactly. So have you got a dream draw, Charlie? Have you thought of this in terms of from a Canadian point of view?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it through the course of this show about what my dream would be. And I think I'm with Ollie on Qatar and Germany, getting Germany out of pot 2 and getting Qatar. There are a lot of, there are things that I've thought for and against for maybe every team. I would love to draw Argentina and play against Messi, but I also don't want to root against Messi in probably his last World Cup.
I tell you what, they scare me, Argentina. They've got their act together here. That, I don't know, a year or two ago, I was like, they're not, they go into this World Cup. They go into this World Cup, Charlie, as potential winners now. I wouldn't. 4 years ago, I thought that they got battered by the French, battered, by the way, that game. And now I'm thinking, now they've got a real chance at this.
They have, and they're a team that I think certainly owe it to Leo Messi to show up at the World Cup, because they have let him down before. I remember that, was it the 2014 final? He basically put the whole team on his back and should have almost won the game on his own, and there was no finishing.
Higuain missed a chance.
No finishing in that team. So I think a lot of neutrals especially want to see Argentina do well here. You saw how excited the whole world was when Messi won the Copa America for the first time. So again, the World Cup is the one that everybody wants him to see. So I don't want Canada to draw Argentina for that reason.
Okay.
Because I don't want to root against them.
No, I mean, I can
understand
understand
any other team in pot 1. I mean, I know that you've said before that you love seeing Brazil at the World Cup.
Yeah.
You love those big games. I think I would love it too, but they're, again, very, very good. Very, very good. I want to see World Cup winner Philippe Coutinho, because I love when an Aston Villa player.
Our Villa connection. That's right, Charlie. A reminder, this is currently the most watched World Cup watch party on YouTube in the world right now. Comments flying in. Great to see you again. Hello to Ghana, to Iran, Senegal, people joining us. England fans, Peru on the chat. This is magnificent. Many of you will know my next guest because he is an international superstar on ESPN. He covers everything and knows everything about everything. So that's why I brought him in. Bring him in. Janusz Michallik, my friend on SiriusXM FC, noted Poland fan and American as well. He will not want Poland or America in the group. I don't want to speak for you, mate, but I would imagine that would be the case. Yes?
No, yeah. I mean, look, it's already. After this, I'm going on Polish television, of course. Because they all want Poland. I'm like, why? I don't want to be explaining. From now until the World Cup, who's better and who do I want to win? And it's an impossible question, of course, as you'd know. KJ, right? When they ask you those things. So, the only worst scenario would have been if it was somehow, Poland, United States, and Canada, because, not because I'm on here, but obviously a soft spot commentating with you at TSN previously and, Toronto FC and all that. So obviously, so happy for you guys. It's been a long time. What was it, 36 years?
That's right.
36.
Yeah. Not that you needed.
No. Yeah, we just had Paul Dolan on, actually, the goalkeeper from the '86 World Cup. I'll let Charlie ask you a question in a second. But one of the reasons, many reasons why I want to get you on here, but I look at pot 3, and there's been a lot of discussion in Canada this week about who do we want from pot 3, and nobody wants your teammate. Nobody wants Lewandowski. Nobody wants Poland. Tell us about Poland right now. You've been there. You've been covering the games for Polish television. You know this team better than anybody. As a potential Canadian opponent, how are they looking?
I think, I just saw the game against Sweden, obviously new manager, as you know, a lot of controversy because Paulo Sousa left left Poland high and dry. He really, really did. He wasn't a popular choice. He was a bit aloof, when he came in. He did a couple of good things, I think, in terms of changing the system at the time. But I think it was one of those where, just think about it. First and foremost, because of what happened in Russia, we didn't have to go to Moscow and play against Russia, which would have been uncomfortable for Poland. Very similar team styles. There's that built-in dislike, of course, for many, many years, and even more so now. So, that would have been a way. And if it was of their own doing, the Polish team, because they didn't play Robert Lewandowski in the last game against Hungary, thinking that, that's going to be an easily won game against what then was, I don't want to say B Hungary team, but one that knew they weren't qualifying, and many other stars didn't come, and they lost that game, which meant, of course, that Poland would have to play that game away in Russia, and you just never know. So, given the fact that Poland kind of went straight to the final against Sweden, in my hometown, helped. So it's a team. I don't want to say in transition, but it is a little bit with new manager. It was a pleasant surprise that they switched from 3 in the back under Paulo Sousa to 4 in the back, because I think, that's what Poland needs to do. It's going to be interesting to see how they play in the World Cup, but, playing with wingers, we don't have them. And one, very, very well, Matty Cash, of course, who even in Aston Villa, right?
Polish Cafu.
Right. When Dean Smith, when Dean Smith, while he was still there, switched to 3 in the back with it, he didn't play as well. The moment, of course, they went back to 4, as we've seen. I think he wasn't player of the month, I think, last month. He was absolutely outstanding. So Poland is your, not really truly possession, still most comfortable playing, on the counter, a little bit like Canada, I think. United States, to a degree, we just don't want to admit, I think, that we should be still probably at times play on the counter. The high pressing, thing is, I think United States are looking better at it, but I think the DNA, I don't know if it's that, right? I think all of our countries feel more comfortable kind of letting the other team have the ball a little bit more, and then, stay organized and disciplined, very much like Canada, because I think that was the name of the game, wasn't it? From most of the games that I've watched, just incredible discipline, fight, willingness to really play for the guy next to you, which is important. And it's going to be even more important, as you know.
Yeah, Poland would be a really interesting matchup for Canada, I think, because there's no team in CONCACAF that they've played that has that proper number 9 as well. I think, there's nobody in the world like Robert Lewandowski, but there's no real player in CONCACAF that has that kind of profile. But sorry for interrupting, but we have a lot of number 9s. Many teams show, and that's it's good, bad, or indifferent, because we look at Krzysztof Piątek, who got injured in that
game against Scotland, that was friendly just before that. And, Milik, of course, is another one. Adam Buksa, who you guys know plays in MLS. Karol Świderski, who just came over and, he's been scoring for Charlotte, and that's big controversy because he was supposed to be injured, didn't come for the national team and played all of a sudden. But, so we have a lot of goal scorers, a lot of number 9s. I don't know necessarily if they're proven goal scorers at a World Cup level. Right. And then again, you kind of like, for as long as Lewandowski's healthy, these guys are kind of, not really true number 9. Sometimes we'll play next to those on the bench. So sorry for interrupting, but yeah, that's one thing that we don't struggle with.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's one of the things that I think makes Poland so much fun to watch is their ability to crack open teams and to score. But let me ask you just about Canada, especially as somebody watching maybe from the outside. What have you thought about their kind of qualification run and about this team? I know that you've already touched on it a little bit, but what's it like watching this team and kind of the progress they've made over the last year?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be original because, I haven't had a chance to talk about Canada that often, but it reminds me a little bit of my time, 1994. It's like, the whole thing being a future host, right? Obviously a turn in how the game is perceived in Canada. I think a lot has to do with the women. Obviously, Olympic champions, and they've been great for a long, long time. So, that may have been the catalyst. But I just think it was always coming. I was quietly hoping that it would happen, right? Normally, you don't want another rival. You don't. If you're U.S., I don't enjoy watching Canada finishing at the top. But as a former player, and when I look at CONCACAF, we've got to get better. And the only way you get better is if you get Canada to get better. If you get, I don't know, Haiti or some of the other teams, because let's be honest. We hear talk about the CONCACAF's getting better, which I think it is, but it's still not to a level that's going to get us anywhere. You know what I mean? When we get to the World Cup. So seeing Canada being this additional rival, it's great, right? Because it used to be, okay, U.S., Mexico, and, I don't know, Costa Rica and Canada. We didn't even talk. I joke with KJ because in my time, it was always a game. It was always physical, but I've never lost to Canada. Played a number of times, and it was never in our psyche even to think that that's possible, right? But I bring that psyche because it's similar to 1994. World Cup was coming. The attention was on the team. Canada, you could see that coming, right? It wasn't overnight. It didn't just happen. I at least, I was, watching, some of these guys play in MLS, and we were all kind of thinking like, yeah, they've got to do something now. They have enough players. And the question always is, because a lot of teams have a lot of good players, but it's always hard to put a team together. It's not as easy as people think. I don't even use that as a cliche. Teams are funny, right? And sometimes you have this unbelievable belief. And I bring this 1994 because we, maybe because we date ourselves, but, we're all on TV kind of now, Alexi Lalas here, Marcelo Balboa, and, that group, when we struggle and we didn't make it last time, right? Under Klinsmann and then, we could see it. This wasn't a team. It just wasn't a team. And, the players were just as good, perhaps better than what we were, back then. But there was something, and you guys know how it is down here, right? You wave that flag, and I'm telling you, I always remember, I just flew back from Los Angeles, actually went to visit my old training center for the World Cup they built, especially for us. And I'm telling you, it's not just because I haven't been there for a while, but these memories started flooding. I was with my son and I saw this field. I was like, oh my God, I left a lot of sweat and blood on that field, but we didn't mind it. There was that sense of achievement, maybe that sense that Canadians feel now that, okay, we're here, we've arrived. Now, how do we get to the next level? Because, that's going to be the hardest part, to kind of maintain that level.
Yeah, lots of love for Janusz in the chat, and as I said, it's international chat right now. It is the most watched party right now on YouTube going around the world. Please put your flags on the side. We're hosting this with the Canadian Premier League in Canada, but it's a global country. So many people in Canada love your different countries as well. You're allowed that. Please put all the countries down on the flags. We're going to watch you. I got 5 more minutes or so with Janusz. Janusz, have you allowed yourself to dream? Have you fantasized about a potential group that you would love? We were talking earlier about Charlie said he would not want Canada to get messy because Messi's last tournament, and he feels like there's something special about that. Everyone's got their heart and head combining in all of this. Have you thought about, Poland and the United States, who, obviously you don't want them to connect, but Poland for Canada, man, you'd be the most popular man here in 6 months.
I know. Maybe I should go for that. I know, for United States, I haven't really truly thought about it because, who cares? You're going to the big dance, and I'll be saying that. You know how it is, and maybe you don't have that in Canada yet, but in United States, it's like you do anything to get there, right? And then now all of a sudden the expectations, oh yeah, we got to get out of group. We've got to go to. Look, you go into the big dance. Don't forget, 4 years ago for us, you weren't there. You would have taken any result against Trinidad and Tobago. Wouldn't have mattered how they play, good, better, different, as long as you get there, right? So I think I wouldn't mind Argentina, to be honest with you, for US or for Poland, right? I mean, great stories. I think, probably, I don't know if it's the last World Cup for Messi, but, if Poland was in that group, then it's Lewandowski and Messi, that narrative, who, the best number 9. So Argentina I would have liked. I'll tell you this. I don't know for either. Well, U.S. can't get a Canada, but for Poland, I wouldn't want that either. You guys gonna? Well, yeah.
Nobody wants Canada from pot 4. That's what we've discovered.
That's what I said.
Well, but that's great, and uncomfortable team to play in, right? So I wouldn't. We're gonna get Ghana, aren't we? United States. We just always do. So I'm just assuming that Ghana is gonna be there, and then probably Argentina, and I don't have that pot 4 yet. It's good that it's not going to be Canada for United States, but the pot 4, I don't know if I. I haven't gotten there yet.
Top 4 will be Ghana, probably. Listen, Janusz, you're the man. You're the man. I can't thank you enough. I know it's a really busy time for you. You've got Polish TV. You're all over ESPN International, Sirius. It's fantastic. I love working with you, mate. You know that. And this is a special day for us who love football as well. And Canada, US,
you guys are going to have a busy November and December. So good for you.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Janusz Michallik, thanks so much. Enjoy the day.
See you too. Bye-bye.
There he is. You can follow him on Twitter at Janusz Michallik, one of the most, well-versed soccer guys in the world. We're going to have a couple more guests on. Don't worry, you've not missed anything for everybody. Look at all these flags coming in from all over the world. Argentina, Peru, Iran, Senegal, Israel, Morocco, Serbia, France, England. It's absolutely fantastic. We're going to get some more guests on in a second. You're missing nothing, by the way. The draw will not happen for at least another 20 minutes. There's a lot of nonsense going on there anyway. In the meantime, we are here in Canada, and we've got the Canadian Premier League starting up next week, which is a monumentous day for us here in Canada as well. This Canadian Premier League starts its 4th season, and the start of the season is next Thursday, Charlie. We are less than a week away. Here in Canada. It's for those of you joining us who are not aware of it, get to know it. We've got players all around the world. João Morelli was our best player last year. He's fantastic to talk to as well, the Brazilian. So, Charlie, this is a special moment for the Canadian Premier League.
It absolutely is, and it all fits together. The sport on the rise in Canada is from the national teams right down to the CPL, and it's so exciting to see the quality of the football in that league continue. There are players, as you mentioned, from all over the world. Some of the best players are from the Netherlands and Germany and South America and Mexico and so on and so forth. So it's just so much fun to watch the game really starting to take hold in our country, and it's only upwards from here, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Loads of questions coming in about that and some love for the CPL as well. A reminder, all those games live on One Soccer here in Canada. You can catch them around the world as well in different places. But York host on Thursday. That'll be a special game for them. And then a rematch on the Sunday. We have 4 games, by the way, 4 games in total. York Halifax on Thursday, and then obviously Atletico Ottawa take on Cavalry. That'll be a special day. FC Edmonton take on Valor, and then the rematch of the final on Vancouver Island on the Sunday night. Pacific FC, the champs, take on Forge, the 2-time champs, on Sunday the 10th as well. Let's put a couple more simulators. Put in your dream groups. Reminder, there's absolutely nothing you're missing. There's some cartoons going on right now on the world feed.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what this is. It's really bizarre.
I'm really not trying to figure out what it is because we're here to talk football, not cartoons. So anyway, put your dream groups in the chat. We're going to get a couple more guests in. We'll see. We might get my buddy Tom Craig on in a second, the actor. Just get him on there for the English perspective as well, and he loves his Canada. Let's do one more simulator for me over here. Okay. Here's my simulator. Let me know what you think. And I'm going to go group by group. Qatar, Mexico, Morocco, Ukraine. in Group A. Group B, Spain, Switzerland, Iran, and Ghana. Group C, England, US, Poland, and Cameroon. Some usual foes for England in the past week through there. Group D, Argentina, Netherlands, Serbia, Costa Rica. A reminder, this is just a simulator. Don't worry, I'm not breaking news. Group E, Belgium, Uruguay, Tunisia, Saudi Arabia. Group F, Portugal, Germany, Senegal, Australia. Group G, France, Denmark, Korea Republic, and Ecuador. And Group H, Brazil, Croatia, Japan, Canada. Brazil, Croatia, by the way, is what kicked off the 2014 World Cup. I love when you see teams play each other that have already just played each other in recent World Cups. There's like that little rivalry in international football going, Charlie.
It's really weird when you get kind of countries that would normally have no real footballing relationship. They turn into sort of rivals because of games they've played against each other.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Brazil and Germany would be a lot of fun, and it could happen in a group stage.
It would be a lot of fun.
I just ran another one, and I got Canada in Group A. I got us with Qatar.
You got what you wanted. Frame it.
I got Qatar, I got Switzerland.
Okay.
And I got Poland.
Okay. There you go.
That could be a lot worse, but
could be a lot worse. It was interesting, Janusz's perspective on Poland, because a lot of the pot 3 teams, I don't have any fear for them from Canada. And I know the Poles have Lewandowski, but they significantly underachieve at major tournaments as well. So we'll see how that goes. A reminder, you're missing absolutely nothing. There's some dancing going on the stage. Inevitable nonsense that happens with these World Cup draws. We're here for you when the draws happen. In the meantime, we're family. We're open up guests. We've got people coming in all the time. Let's bring our next guest in. The noted actor himself from England, but spends a lot of time here in Canada on Murdoch Mysteries, Tom Craig. Bring him in the chat. Bring him in. Here he is. Tom, great to see you, mate.
Hey, lads.
How are you?
Very good. Very excited.
Yeah. What's this day like for you? And obviously, for the worldwide listeners who are watching us right now, we've got tons of worldwide listeners and viewers on this right now. Your connection to England, obviously, but also Canada as well in all of this.
Yeah, I've been working in Canada for the last 15 years. I remember seeing Canada play Jamaica in 2008 in a World Cup qualifier at the BMO. So, yeah, I've really got into this Canadian team over the last 2 or 3 years. I've been telling my pals in Canada that they were going to qualify for this before it even started. So I feel justified and vindicated.
Absolutely. As somebody who comes from, obviously, a country with a ton of football love and appreciation for the game, have you seen it starting to take hold here now that this team is just so different from what it was when I guess you arrived here?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I got to Canada the first year that TFC were in the MLS in 2007, and there was all the buzz about Beckham signing for LA and that. And there's obviously a massive football orientated fan following in Toronto, but I think it's just gone a bit mental over the last few weeks. I got back here 6 weeks ago, so I've missed all the buzz in Canada, but it sounds like it's been crazy.
It's been fantastic, mate. It's great to know that you've been a part of that. What would England getting Canada mean to you if they get through?
Well, I've always more been into club football than country. I never really get excited when England score, not like when Sheffield Wednesday score, mate. Do you know what I mean?
I get it.
But it would be hard for me because I really like this Canadian side. And I just think Southgate always errs on the edge of caution, whereas John Herdman, he's got them just attacking. And they're fantastic to watch.
Yeah, he absolutely does. Canada don't fear a lot of opponents. But speaking of fearing opponents, do you have kind of a dream group for either for England or for Canada?
Well, for Canada, I'm just looking at it. Obviously, Qatar. You want Qatar, don't you? Everybody wants Qatar. And pot 2, I'd say either Uruguay because they're an aging side, or maybe Denmark. And then pot 3, I think we'd prefer to avoid. I think we'd prefer to avoid Serbia. I think Serbia are probably one of the strongest teams in pot 3.
Yeah.
So maybe Tunisia or Iran.
I love how you said "we" there, mate, and I know. I love it. No, I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to hold you to it. Talk to us about that, because you're, a worldwide international actor. You're obviously proud Yorkshireman and Sheffield Wednesday fan. You love your Owls, but talk to us about what that connection is like when you come over. You work on a show like Murdoch Mysteries, and how much you fall in love with the country.
Yeah, well, I've had my permanent residency since 2014, so I'm on my second PR card. So I'm half Canadian, I suppose. And it's just the fact that this team are young and likeable. I think James Sharman was saying on your show the other day, they're a really likeable bunch of lads. Or maybe it was you, KJ, I'm not sure. But sometimes you feel watching England that you actually don't like some of the players. Do you know what I mean? It's not fair because you don't know them. It's just the way they come across in the media. But these lads just come across like they're loving it. And I love the fact that you've got the third goalkeeper travelling from Oldham Athletic. He travels across the world. He knows he's going to sit on the bench, but they all want to turn up and they all want to be there. It's a bit like when Jack Charlton was the Irish manager. They would just travel even if they knew they weren't playing because they knew it was going to be fun. They knew that they were winning and they knew it was a good crack.
You're playing up to Charlie there. He loves Jack Charlton's Island.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Love that.
Good old Irish
90.
boy.
I'm a mate of John Sheridan's.
There you go. Perfect. You
Amazing.
would do with Sheffield Wednesday connection. I would imagine you've got
I used
lots
to
of
love that Irish team, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, it's so much fun. Though you said that you're not a massive international football guy, but the World Cup is what it's all about, right? That's the best the best footballing event of the year, isn't it?
Oh, everybody loves the World Cup. My eldest daughter, she was born in 2002, and I used to get up for that World Cup in Japan. And I'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to change her and feed her while her mum stayed in bed. And there'd be 3 games by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's fantastic. I just love a World Cup. I mean, there's the issues with this one because it's in Qatar and it's in the winter and everything. But I think by the time it comes around, everybody will just be into it. I mean, the Canadians will be, I'm sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I was born in a World Cup year, and I didn't plan it, but both my kids were born in World Cup years as well.
Yeah.
There's always something special about that World Cup. Hey, listen, mate, this has been fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us. I know you're a massive fan of Canada. Next time you're over here, we're going to take you to some Canadian Premier League games as well. Okay?
Oh,
Deal?
brilliant! Yeah. Have a great show, lads, and good luck.
Thanks, Tommy. Appreciate
Take care.
it.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate Tom Craig, a great actor as well. Talking of the Canadian Premier League, we told you it was kicking off. Time to get excited.
Still loose, Morelli! And on, and hit it in! Malcolm Shaw! Joignier, his shot, and finally, their goal! There's Bustos, score! And Mr. Benjamin Fisk. Another game, another goal! With love, champions of the Canadian Premier League, Pacific FC!
There is your schedule. If you're new to the league and you're just finding out about it, canpl.ca. We're all over it. That's right. canpl.ca. Check everything out there. Obviously, One Soccer's YouTube page, Canadian Premier League YouTube page, got all your highlights there. You can access everything. Come on in and join us. Press conferences are fun as well. The players and the personalities are fantastic. Just a fantastic time for Canadian soccer, no doubt. Don't worry, the draw's still not started. We are here for you the moment it starts. Still a lot of nonsense going on in the stage right now in Doha. We thank you for joining us and being with us rather than watching. We'll watch that together when the real stuff happens. But Charlie, this is, as we said earlier, just an unprecedented, remarkable time for Canadian soccer that we're witnessing right now.
It certainly is. It's taken so long to get to this point. There's been, as we've mentioned before, some very tough years. Especially for the men's national team in Canada. Hadn't been to the final round even of World Cup qualifying since the late 90s. But for them to qualify for that final round and then to just not only qualify for the World Cup, but to win the group, to top it, to beat Mexico, to beat the United States. They beat every team at least once.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable for Canada to not just get to the World Cup, but to do so with style, to impress everybody along the way, to be one of the best teams coming out of the region. I'm seeing just so much stuff going on the
one of the most
expensive
doors. There's this wheels or doors question going around. One of the most expensive doors in the world just opened up. I think it's full gold. I don't even know, but they're just basically bringing all the celebrities onto stage. We're watching it with you right now. The players are coming out who will be in charge of bringing out the crucial balls out the pots, and we're going to get there soon, but nothing's started yet as ever. There's a delayed process as the hosts start coming out. In the meantime, we are here from Canada, and we know that your love for all your countries is real. We're seeing them in the comments and the chats. Continue to put the flags in there. Celebrate your country. Celebrate them. Who do you want to get in this World Cup? This is a momentous occasion, and we're going to get through it all. And once it starts, we're going to talk about it together. In the meantime, as I said, we are from Canada, and we have qualified, we being the men's World Cup, qualified for the first World Cup since 1986. Charlie's been all over it on the coverage, as have I. And recently, when Canada finally made it to the World Cup, I penned an essay to look back on what was a remarkable World Cup qualifying campaign. By now, we know the happy ending.
In your wildest dreams, from obscurity to unforgettable, this is the moment the country has waited for. The Kings of the North, they've done it!
It is an appropriate place to begin. It started with a dream, a vision, collective belief that this group could climb the mountain and reach the summit. Sunday at BMO Field, we all got to see the view from the top. But you and I know this was never simply about the destination. This was about a journey. This was about a climb. Up the rankings, into the head of opponents, and into the hearts and minds of millions of Canadians watching a team perform and produce some of the finest moments in Canadian soccer history. Base camp on this adventure began in the middle of a pandemic, and in the middle of a field in Florida, where a job still had to be done, no matter who was not watching. Bermuda, Cayman Islands, Aruba, Suriname were all inevitably dispatched, as were Haiti over a two-legged affair.
Two center backs being good tonight for Haiti. Oh no, look out! What a mistake! Can you believe that happened?
Now it was time for greater challenges, and as Canada's stadiums opened up, so did the belief inside this team that they were ready for the Kings of CONCACAF. Ready to win, ready to battle. Kyle Larin from the spot, and then from Fonzie in the US. Atiba, JD, and Tejan smashed El Salvador, and Canada were in the hunt through 3 games. Osorio orchestrated a fine point in Mexico. Another followed in Jamaica before the game and the goal that changed everything.
Buchanan forward. David plays it down the line. Look out, that ball staying in, and Davies is on it. Davies takes it away. 2v1. Davies has Buchanan. Alfonso Davies keeps it himself. Goal! Alfonso Davies. Are you kidding me? An individual piece of brilliance.
The climb was picking up steam. The win put Canada into the top 3 spot they would never relinquish. See the rise. Edmonton, Alberta, dancing David's step and finish, seeing off Costa Rica. And then Azteca. Larin, not once, but twice, and Milan Boyan heroically securing all 3 points at the climax. Honduras away was next, and Davies against Panama got competition for one of the finest goals this country will ever see.
Jonathan David! Oh my! That was special!
Larin, who else, in Hamilton, and Adekubi stopped the Americans. A 6th straight win was in the stars in El Salvador, and suddenly Canada could see the peak. This was their one moment. One time they could earn the right to reach the pinnacle of their sport. Where so many have failed, they succeeded. Many paths could have been chosen, but this likable group paved their own way, dazzling us all and leaving a legacy on a journey that will forever change the sport in this country. For that, we are all eternally grateful. Congratulations, Canada. Qatar 2022 is yours. There we go. Qatar 2022 is yours, Canada. And the draw is close. We're getting closer and closer. And the point there is they earned it, Charlie. Everybody watching this chat all around the world, Canada is hosting in 2026 with the United States and Mexico. This group of players, this was their moment, their only chance before it, quite frankly, a grotesquely inflated World Cup comes after that, where 6 CONCACAF teams at least are going to get in. This was their moment to get in now, Charlie.
This was the last chance to earn your seat at the table on the pitch before you get one in 2026. And then after that, it will not be this difficult to qualify for a World Cup from CONCACAF. There'll be, I'm not sure how many CONCACAF spots they're going to be in a 48 team. Is it 5, 6? Yeah.
At least 6, yeah.
6 spots in the World Cup. So it will not be as difficult. So it was so important to this team to qualify this year, to earn that before they host it and to have that special moment. There's a lot going on this stage, man.
Yeah, lots of dancing, jumping around. Johnny Infantino has now just joined the circus on stage as well. So again, 20 past the hour. We're at least 10 minutes away from any business here. So this is what happens. This takes place, lots of this thing, and then they just come out and everyone's like, "Can you slow down, please? I want to know which group it's going in." Let's put the groups up. Let's put the pots up again here, and we'll figure out what we're going to get through in terms of where the pots are going to be. A reminder who's going to be in which. Qatar are seeded because they're hosted. It's their first World Cup. Brazil under Chichi, it is their 22nd out of 22 World Cups. The 5-time winners are now ranked first in the world for the first time in 5 years. Belgium under Roberto Martinez returned for their 13th World Cup. The holders, the French, Didier Deschamps, French, it's their 16th World Cup. They're the 2-time winners, of course. Lionel Scaloni has guided Argentina to their 18th World Cup, of course, winners in 1978 and 86. The 1966 winners under Gareth Southgate are in their 16th World Cup. They are also seeded. That is England. Luis Enrique has returned to Spain for their 16th World Cup as well. Of course, the 2010 winners. Portugal under Fernando Santos, their best performance in a World Cup, a third in 1966. Into pot 2, where we have the Mexicans under Tata Martino in their 17th World Cup. Of course, quarterfinalists in 1970 and 1986. The Dutch, of course, are there as well. Louis van Gaal is there for their 10th World Cup, the 2-time runners-up in 74 and 78. Kasper Huijsen's Denmark, who did so well in the semifinals at the Euros. The 1998 quarterfinalists returned for their 6th World Cup. The Germans are scarily in pot 2 for a lot of teams. Hansi Flick's team obviously did not make the group at the group stage last time. We would expect that would happen this time. Their 20th World Cup for the 4-time winners. Uruguay now under Diego Alonso after the long-term boss Oscar Washington Tabarez left at the end of last season, returned for their 14th World Cup, the 2-time winners from 1930 and 1950. The Swiss were very good against the English recently at Wembley. Murat Yakin's team is their 11th World Cup, but have never won a knockout game ever. That's right. Imagine winning 3-0 in a knockout game in 1954 and losing the game 7-5, back when football was very different. Greg Berhalter's US, of course, return after missing the last World Cup, their 10th World Cup. 2002 quarterfinalist is their best appearance. And Croatia, the runners-up from Russia in 2018, still under Zlatko Dalic, are in for their 6th out of the last 7 years as FIFA member since getting independence. Into pot 3, and Aliou Cisse Senegal are arguably the strongest team in pot 3. Remember, they missed out in qualifying for the last 16 of the World Cup last time through fair play. They are an outstanding team, obviously the African Cup of Nations champions. Tunisia are in there with Iran, Japan, Morocco, Serbia, Poland, and South Korea. Iran, by the way, are in their 6th World Cup, never made it past the group stage, but do not sleep on Iran, a team that many people think could be quite exciting in this World Cup. The Japanese are back in for their 7th World Cup in a row since 1998. Of course, they made the round of 16 3 times, but no World Cup knockout stage victory. Morocco are in the World Cup as well. They're back for their 6th World Cup, of course, made round of 16 once in 1986 when Lothar Matthäus broke their hearts. Serbia are in the World Cup under Dragan Stojkovic, their 13th World Cup when you include their time with Yugoslavia, where they finished 4th in 1962. The Poles, as we talked to Janusz Michallik earlier, are back. The 3rd place team in 74 and 82 are in their 9th World Cup, as South Korea returned for their 11th under Paulo Bento, the former Portuguese manager. Only one win ever to get out of the group stage, and that was when they hosted it back in 2002. And Tunisia under Jal Al-Qadri are in for their 6th World Cup, never passed the group stage, but they're back in after 78, 98, 02, 06, and of course 2018. Into pot 4, and the Rigobert Song, the legend in charge of Cameroon in their 8th World Cup, the 1990 quarterfinalists are back. Canada are there. That is our team that we're loving here in this country under John Herdman. Their 2nd World Cup, of course, only made it once before in 1986, where they did not score a goal and lost 1-0 to France, 2-0 to USSR, and 2-0 to Hungary. Ecuador, arguably one of the dark horses to come out of pot 4. A lot of teams do not want to meet them after they come through a very rigorous and difficult South American World Cup qualifying. Gustavo Alvaro's team are in their 4th World Cup. They made it to the last 16 once in 2006. Saudi Arabia are back under Hervé Renard, who obviously guided Morocco to the World Cup 4 years ago. They're back for their 6th World Cup, making it out of the group stage only once back in 1994. And fantastic to see the Ghanaians are back. Otto Addo's team are back for their 4th in the last 5 World Cups. Obviously, were a shining light in 2010, making it all the way to the quarterfinals. Those unaware, those playoffs are still to be played. One FIFA playoff will take place between Peru of South America and the winner of UAE and Australia from Asia. And the second playoff will be CONCACAF's 4th team, that is Costa Rica. They take on New Zealand. Both those games, critically, this is very crucial, will be one-off games in Qatar in June, no longer two-legged intercontinental playoffs in their environments. And the UEFA playoff will be one of Scotland, Ukraine, or Wales. Scotland take on Ukraine in June, and then whoever wins that game will travel to Cardiff to get the chance to play and a chance to get through to the World Cup. And a reminder, you cannot be drawn into another group from your confederation unless you are UEFA. So that's a key reminder here, particularly from Canada, as we get set for the draw to take place very shortly. A reminder, when you see US and Mexico come out and go to that group, you cannot get to that group. That is very, very important to know. That's a lot of words from me, Charlie. Over to you, my man.
Over to me. Yeah, that was incredible. I was just sitting here in awe, hearing you rattle off the stats and the information about every team. We've got to be getting close now, though. We're going to start.
What are we at here?
Now, I think
26 past. Yeah.
I'm seeing people going on and off stage. Idris Elba came back for a little bit. Is he doing the draw? I don't know.
I think he's one of the major hosts. Yeah.
I haven't seen Rod Stewart yet or Eric Cantona. So
Rod Stewart's long arm coming in.
Yeah, exactly. That's all-time iconic draw moment.
Yes.
I think it was Cantona that had some absurd, crazy speech at, I think, the Champions League draw.
Yeah.
So there's always bizarre moments, but this one looks for anybody in the chat who's watching with sound, can you maybe explain what was going on with all of the dancing and the backflips and all of that? Because this is just very bizarre.
Not missing.
There's Diego Maradona on screen.
We're watching Maradona score goals right now in the World Cup, and that's pretty special. I think they're honoring Rossi and Maradona, obviously, and people who have obviously lost since last time. So the great good Muller too. So that's probably the thing that's going on at the moment. Do we want to run any simulators for one more time? The simulators are all about to die, by the way.
I'll run one more.
Yeah, why don't you run one, Charlie?
Should I say them all? I got Canada in Group H, so I can go through them all and.
Let's do it.
So in Group A, we've got Qatar, Switzerland, Senegal, and Ecuador.
Okay.
It's a true global group. In Group B, Argentina, Denmark, Serbia, Saudi Arabia. That is a tough one. Argentina and Denmark will be a good game. Yeah. Group C, we've got your England, Netherlands, Japan, and Ghana. It's also a very tough group. Very tough group. Group D, we have Brazil, Germany, Tunisia, and Costa Rica. Brazil and Germany, again.
Yeah.
Again, I seem to keep drawing that in the simulator, which I cannot fathom in a group stage.
Oh,
but anyway,
particularly after the Germans group in the Euros as well.
Exactly.
I think they deserve a bit of a softer group. Yeah, exactly.
They can't get a break. Although, to be fair, their group in 2018 wasn't actually that difficult, and they still didn't get out of it.
That's true.
Group E, Portugal, the US, Korea, and Cameroon. Group F, Belgium, Uruguay, Iran, and Scotland getting through that playoff, apparently.
Okay.
Good for them. Then in Group G, we've got Spain, Mexico, Poland, and the UAE, who have apparently beaten Australia and Peru, which is impressive.
That is.
And then finally in Group H, this is the big one, France and Croatia. So a World Cup final rematch in a group stage, followed by Morocco and, of course, Canada, which, Again, it keeps
Morocco's
popping
good,
up,
man.
and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, no matter who.
Morocco's good, man. They're a good team.
They are.
They're a good team, and I wouldn't want to play them if I was Canada. The other thing too is that these draw simulators do not tell you who's playing who at certain times. That's very important. I'm telling you.
And the order is important, isn't it?
It's very important, yeah. Because remember, like you need to pick out a game, particularly if you're a fourth seeded team in the group. You need to pick out a game where in the game 1 or game 2, which one are you going to win? Rarely do you ever get through a group now with 2 losses. I think it's only ever happened once before. Anyway, if you lose the first 2 games, or if you pick up a point, you go into that last game, it's just a disaster. Do you know what I mean? Like you need to make sure you know what you've got going in that moment. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. But I think that's interesting. Yeah. So let's see how we go here. The draw looks like it's starting to happen soon. We're trying to get guests in, but when this draw happens, it's going to be crazy. Join us. Just stay with us. We're going to get through it. The players are about to come out. I did see the list of players. Did you see some of these? I think Lothar Matthäus is one of the players.
I didn't see any of this.
Didier Deschamps is currently holding a World Cup, but there's a kid holding another one. We can't see 2 World Cups at the same time.
I think it's a cardboard one.
Oh, please tell me it's not a real cup. Oh, thank goodness. I thought it was like a replica. I was like, you can't show me 2 cups at the same time. That's not right.
There can't be 2. There can't be multiple.
You can't show me another one. Thank goodness it's just a kid with a cardboard cup.
I'm not sure why.
Has brought the actual FIFA World Cup. I hope it's the actual one. I'm sure there's another one, but you can never see 2. Can't see 2 at the same time, mate. You know?
No, there can't be multiple. I would assume it's the real. You'd think that the World Cup draw could get the real World Cup involved.
Yeah, I imagine
you would think.
Yeah, I don't think Deschamps probably touched it since Russia in the rain. He probably hasn't been near it since. But yeah, I imagine it's just looking pretty polished and everything. But this is 12. It's 31 minutes past the hour, and this thing has not even started yet.
I don't see any balls or
I've lived through some draws,
balls.
man, and I knew they take the time. They told us it would be done in an hour. I'm more concerned with the fact that it might be done by the top of the clock, but they're just going to rush through it. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see how we go.
We will see.
But yeah, so a reminder, here we go. Didier Deschamps has brought out the World Cup, and we're not that far away. We're not that far away here at all. Time for another simulator. This is going to be fun. There we go. Time for a simulator. Let's see what goes on here. One more simulator. Qatar, Denmark, Serbia, Ghana in Group A. Let me know. There's a lot of Ghanaians in the chat. Let us know what you think about that one. Portugal, Switzerland, Japan, Cameroon in Group B. A reminder, these are simulators that when it happens, we're going to live it with you. Argentina, Germany, they cannot escape each other on my simulators, these 2 teams. Korea and New Zealand. That'd be a big shock if the New Zealand beat Costa Rica. Costa Rica been playing very well,
Costa Rica.
By the way. Yeah. Costa Rica got 25 points, Charlie. They got to 25 points, and they didn't make it in the top 3. Like every projection that was made out, nobody imagined that a team would get to 25 points and not make it into the top 3. Like I think a lot of people underestimated just how top heavy it would be. Like Honduras were horrendous, and Jamaica just they didn't want to know.
Jamaica was so disappointing.
So disappointing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, carrying on my simulation: France, Mexico, Senegal, Australia. That sounds like a very similar group to what happened in 2018. The French played the Aussies there too. Simulation: England, Croatia. Can't escape them. Tunisia, Saudi Arabia. That's Group F. Group G is Belgium, Uruguay, Poland, Canada. It's the first one I've seen for Canada with Belgium.
Oh no,
you don't
Belgium,
like that?
Yeah,
that's not a great group, huh? Belgium, Uruguay, Poland, Canada. Yeah.
That's a tough one. It's a very tough one.
And then Group H, simulating Spain, Netherlands, Morocco, Ecuador. Back to Canada. Do we want a group where people think they're going to get through, or can they do like the whole Costa Rica 2014, just sneak up on teams and just beat them up?
Group of death, and you just somehow top a group of Uruguay, England, and Italy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, coming in without the expectations is probably a good thing. I think Canada has thrived on not having expectations.
Yeah.
Recently, other than the first 2 rounds of World Cup qualifying, they get into the octagon, and a lot of the talk was, hey, maybe you can get to that 4th, maybe you can come 3rd in this group. So having measured expectations, I think, has served this team well to exceed them. So I don't think I want to go into a group expecting anything.
No, I think that's a good point. I mean, Canadian fans, if you're watching, put it in the chat. Let us know what you want. Again, the dream groups, how you want this to go down. I still think, and I've been pretty consistent on this now, I want a superpower. I want a Brazil.
Yeah.
get a superpower team, have that big story, England, whoever it would be, and then maybe a couple of group games where you think, Canada have got a chance there. Not saying they haven't got a chance against Brazil, by the way. Remember, there's been games before where Brazil have struggled to do anything in group stages. Teams rarely, in fact, I don't think there's been one. And I love my World Cups. Top class teams rarely ever run the table and come out right away and go 3-3-3, bang, 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 9 points. Let's go, let's dominate, and then they win a World Cup. You got to go back to the Brazilians of the 70s, 50, 58, 70s. That just doesn't happen, Charlie.
No, it doesn't. And there's also, I think, every World Cup, there's at least one big team that falls apart. Just has a disaster.
Absolutely.
It's often been France. It wasn't last time, but it's often been France at the World Cup falling apart. And there's always at least one massive team that just falls short of the expectations. Maybe they sleep on a game that they think they should win. Right. Maybe they go into the Canada game expecting to win, and they kind of look past it and look at a bigger game in that group, and Canada catch them off guard. They nick a point or something. So, you never know until the actual games start being played. That's why we actually play them.
Breaking news. We have tables and what looks like glass walls on the stage. That's fantastic. That means we've got some development going on, and we've got Jermaine Genius walking out now. So we've got actual footballers on stage as well.
Yeah.
Oh, Carly Lloyd's there. Oh, great to see Carly Lloyd there as well. That's fantastic.
Okay. Yeah.
So it looks like it's starting to look like it's going to happen, which is
they're considering drawing something. They're thinking about it.
They still haven't brought the legends out, by the way. I think the legends are in there, Cafu and Mateus, and I think there's a few others coming out there that are going to do that. So if they're going to squeeze this in for 25 minutes, they better get this done pretty quickly. But they're
going to fly through it.
They're going to fly through it. Yeah. A reminder: you will see each seeded team assigned to a group first. That is very important for you to know. So the first thing we're going to see is the 8 seeded teams: Qatar, Brazil, Belgium, France, Argentina, England, Spain, Portugal. They're the first teams that you will see go up on the board. It's not a random draw where they start putting them out and then assigning them in. If those who are not aware, you will get 8 teams assigned to 8 groups, and they will go all A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Then we'll find out where they're going to go and when they're going to slot in. And then after that, we do it by pots. So we're going to go to pot 2, which will be, of course, Denmark, Netherlands, Germany, Mexico, the Americans, Switzerland, Croatia, Uruguay. And that will be placed in there. And then they will be given their groups and their slots. Remember, that's important. They will not all go into the second slot. They do not all play the first seeded teams. Then you will do pot 3. They will do the same thing. Senegal, Tunisia, Iran, Japan, Morocco, Serbia, Poland, South Korea. And then pot 4, crucially for those watching here with us in Canada, Canada involved Cameroon, Ecuador, Saudi Arabia, Ghana, and the 3 playoff teams. Canada will have to wait arguably the longest. It could well be the longest of any, because imagine what's going to happen here in the next 15 minutes. You're going to have 3 groups. So you're going to have 3 teams in each group, and it's going to come down to the 4th one. And if Canada get drawn, they will not be able to meet Mexico's group or the United States group. Then we're going to see the longer Canada does not get drawn, the less likely we're going to know the group, and it's just going to be slotted in, because it could come to the point where they've got 1 or 2, and that's it, because that's the way that it goes with the pot order as well. So that is how it works in these group stages and in these crazy groups. And now they're doing introductions. Here comes the great Cafu. What a player Cafu was, Charlie.
Unbelievable.
Just an unbelievable player. You know what? You had a legendary career when you've basically got a position and a tactical position named after you. Every great right back is
every time there's a right back that plays really well. They're Scottish Cafu or Polish Cafu.
That's right.
He's the Brazilian Cafu. He's the original one,
Cafu.
And he was a phenomenal player, part of that World Cup winning team in 2002, which was a phenomenal team, and that was a great World Cup. We've got some more players coming out on stage now. I think they are considering doing something football related.
Okay,
on the stage.
That's good.
They're thinking about it.
Yeah, we'll see how
the dancing is mostly stopped.
Thank goodness. No?
Yeah.
That is
no time for that.
No one's there to see that. Let's be honest. Come on, like this is just a draw that we want to see. This is.
Here's your man. Here's Lothar Matthäus.
Lothar Matthäus. There he is. One of my absolute favorites of all time, no doubt about it. What a player. This is what World Cups are about. You fall in love with players like that. I was 12. The guy was dominating in midfield. Played for Inter. The Serie A was the best league in the world. Best players go to Serie A at the time. This guy is just dominating. And look, the World Cup final was an absolute disgrace. It was an awful game. But at least the World Cup.
A lot of them are.
Honest, there wasn't a lot of talented games. There wasn't a lot of entertaining games in the World Cup. But we had Mateus, we had England's run, we had Pavarotti, we had our memories. So way before you were born, though, Charlie. I'm sure.
I think a little bit. I can't say that I remember it fondly because I don't remember it at all.
Exactly, right? Exactly. So let's get going. There we go. It's finally coming out. We're going to get this draw going. I hope you've got your drinks and your snacks still there, everybody. Reminder, Qatar are the only team.
Here we go.
Right, the only team that we know where they're going to be. They're going to be in A1. So Qatar are going to be in A1. That's the only team that we know, which is important. And then we're going to do what we can. Yeah, we're going to put everybody in there. We've got Nick working behind the scenes. It's going to be fantastic. Nick's got a graphic there that he's going to update as the picks come in. And we're going to watch this together, friends. We're going to watch this draw together. We're going to write it all down. And you can be our history buffs in the comments as well. I've got all my stuff here in terms of who's played who, but we know the fans of this great game have got so much history as well. So they've got so much history.
Yeah,
Patricio's asking, where is Chile? Sorry, they didn't make it this year.
Oh no.
Them and Colombia are very tough South American connection. That is the hardest, I think, still the hardest World Cup qualifying path. I've been saying for a long time. I think that I know why they don't have any more World Cup spots going there because there's only 10. But eventually, I'm glad there'll be more World Cups spots going to the Common Ball, Charlie, because that's such a competitive market.
It is, and Colombia and Chile's loss is incredible gain for Ecuador and for Peru, especially, who have been very good. They're generally a little bit below those teams in that region, I think, but they had a really good qualification run, and I think the story more is them playing very well than Colombia or Chile losing their grip on that spot. So I think there's always two sides to every coin. Peru still haven't qualified, but I think I would probably favor them in that matchup against whoever comes out of the Asian region, I believe, whether it's Australia or UAE. But those teams have been playing some entertaining football in, again, a very competitive and a very fun World Cup qualification group with all of those top teams in the world, Brazil and Argentina, all of these teams that are just such historic powerhouses of the game. So it's not an easy place to be.
No, it's one of the reasons why I quite highly rate a lot of these South American teams, because I think they come out and they're already battle hardened and tested. Like I remember 2010 World Cup, those South American teams were marvelous at that World Cup. Uruguay getting far, and Paraguay did a great job there as well. And I always think they're traditionally very underrated going into this World Cup. And there's a very good chance that in pot 4, Peru are going to be in there with Ecuador. And that's going to be a difficult group for anybody who gets that. I know Peru struggled last time, and many people thought they were going to get through to the 2018 group stages. They didn't, right? So that was something that surprised me. We still have no draw that started. This has surprised me. It's 42.
We're running out of time here.
It's like they promised us it would be done in an hour. The great Tim Cahill's there. Tim Cahill, who scored arguably one of the finest goals in 2014. That was an unbelievable goal in 2014, Charlie, for Australia.
And that was a fun team. That was a very fun Australian team as well. And that goal, that's what I think I mentioned it earlier. The World Cup makes stars. Cahill scores that goal. Everybody in the world watches it. Not a lot of people knew a lot about Australian football or about him until you see him do that on the world stage and score just one of the most incredible goals of the World Cup.
Yeah,
it's
that's
incredible.
Why he's there on stage right now.
Exactly. If he doesn't score that goal, he's at home. He's in Australia.
It's right. Exactly. A great guy, Tim Cahill. I actually had a great piece with him once on the art of headed goals. Tim Cahill scored one. He's got one of the highest goal scorers ever in headed goals in Premier League. And he came to Toronto, played in MLS. And I sat down with him and talked about how much work he puts in scouting defenders, his athleticism, his ability to leap high, always read the ball in the air, and know some outstanding goals scored by his head for Tim Cahill as well. We're seeing a screen right now that says, "Let's go." So that might be a good sign.
I agree.
It might be a good sign that it says, "Let's go." And now there's an explanation. They're telling us 32 teams are divided into 4 pots, 8 teams.
We have already told all you guys that.
You guys already know this. You're ahead of the game. You joined us. Yeah. We've been on there now for an hour and 44 minutes. The most watched World Cup prep show, draw show on YouTube in the world. Can't tell you how great it is to see so many people joining us. And your team is definitely being discussed here. It's fantastic. It's great to see people from Argentina. I'm reminded Brazil, Iran, Ecuador fans. We've got so many people coming in here. Put your flags in there. Again, your last chance here to decide what group you want your team to go in. This is exciting. You know, I never forget going to the 2006 World Cup. I had tickets, Charlie. I didn't go as media. I went with my wife. We went to the Germany World Cup. And I didn't know what games I had tickets for. So I bought tickets. We got in the lottery and we didn't know the games. And it was the most exciting part of the draw. Don't forget, there's people out there today. Some people buy fan package tickets. So they go wherever their team goes. Some people just buy tickets to games. And this is a moment that excites fans all around the world because they have no idea who they're watching. It was, you know, I got tickets to the Argentina, Serbia, Montenegro game in Gelsenkirchen that Messi made his debut and scored his first World Cup goal. Argentina scored 6-1. Cambiaso's world-class, one of the greatest goals to ever see live. I got tickets to that game. It was amazing. We had no idea. You had no idea what games you're going to go see. And that's pretty special as well.
That's one of the best things about the World Cup is every game is massive. Every game is a show, no matter who's playing. You know, all around the world. It doesn't matter what teams are in it. Big team, small team, big country, small country. Every game is talked about all over the world. If something magical can happen in any one of these games. A massive upset can happen in any match. Argentina lose to a pot 14. Maybe they lose to Canada. Who knows? And then all of a sudden, the whole world is talking about that. And every single day during the World Cup just feels like a party. It's just such a special feeling. Especially, you know, we live here in Toronto, and when Canada hasn't been in it, you still walk down the street in Toronto during a World Cup, and it's buzzing. You can see every restaurant, every bar you walk past has games on. They're packed full of people wearing flags and national colors. There's nothing like the World Cup. Nothing like it, man.
This has been fun. We've had lots of guests coming in. I keep checking my phone. We're trying to get a couple of Canadian players on right now. Richie Laryea is stuck in traffic from Nottingham, trying to get to Nottingham from London. He may try and join us as well. Liam Fraser's just working on getting his visa in Belgium. You know, a lot of TFC players are watching on from the training camp and Vancouver and everything. MLS games start tomorrow, and lots of players. Junior Hoylett is actually in the air right now. His flight got delayed, so he can't join us as well. But here we are. Here we go, 12:47 Eastern time, 47 past the hour, wherever many people are in the world.
Is it happening?
Have got something happening. Here we go.
Okay.
Let's go. Qatar, Brazil, Belgium, France, Argentina, England, Spain, and Portugal. A reminder, as I keep saying, these will be the first teams you see. Where will they be assigned? Which group will they be going to? This is it, folks. The final FIFA World Cup draw for the 32 teams. This is the best World Cup you can have in 32 teams. It's never going to be like this again. Let's sit back and enjoy it. We've got Cafu opening the first ball of the World Cup draw.
I wonder who it is.
Announced Qatar. What a shock. He actually pulled out Qatar first.
No way.
Never would imagine that. Qatar, we know, have been pulled first. And guess what? They're already in Group A. So we already got that. We're already ahead of the World Cup draw. We've got Qatar placed in Group A.
Well, at least there has now been a ball drawn.
You know why? They're probably showing that, you know, he has to roll around here and actually pull the red ball. Qatar has their own ball. It's red.
Yeah.
And so Qatar will pull out.
It's rigged.
It's rigged. A1, something we've known for 12 years. But now we do know officially that Qatar are in A1 in the World Cup.
In case there was any doubt.
So Cafu is in charge, I believe, of pulling the next team.
Here's the exciting part. Here we go.
And there's I think streams may work a little differently. I might be ahead, or Charlie, I don't know. But let's see. Cafu was pulled England. England are the next team to discover their fate. Gareth Southgate currently watching on. Let's find out where they will go. England, I believe we're in one of the latest groups, maybe even in Group H with Belgium in the last time. That means you have to wait longer. Yes. They were in Group H, I believe, last time. So let's find out what group they go in. A reminder, A starts the tournament, B's pretty quickly afterwards. But no, England were in G last time. That's right. They were in G with Belgium, Panama, and Tunisia. So we'll find out where they go. Do they have to wait a few days for a game? No, they don't. They go right to B. So B1. England go to B. That means they start the tournament a bit earlier than normal. And England are your team in B1. So Group 1 will go to
That's
England.
what you like. I think you want to get started early.
I think so. It's a little different,
so.
right, than they have in
Yeah.
the past. Yeah.
You don't want to wait. It's Argentina. Okay.
Argentina are the next team, Charlie. Yeah.
Argentina
Okay,
now.
Let's see where they go.
All right. Thanks, Cafu. Appreciate it.
Lionel Scaloni's done a great job with them. As I said earlier, they were a bit of a mess at one point.
Yes.
Now they head into this World Cup as being, quite frankly, one of the favorites. And as you alluded to earlier, Charlie, a fan darling of a team with Messi. No,
of course. Everybody wants to see Messi have that moment for himself at the World Cup, especially after what happened in 2014.
No doubt.
C1.
This is going in order right now. This is not what
it looks like it. This is
Argentina go to C1.
Argentina to Group C.
This is also crucial because groups cross in knockout football. Remember that.
Yes.
So England, should they win, or whoever should they get through, will be crossed with Group A. That's important to know. So France have been drawn in Group D. France go in. Oh no, France have not been drawn in Group D. They've just been drawn right now. First mistake.
We'll see if it's still going in order.
Maybe it will. But, so see if the French come out and where they're going to get placed. France last time won the World Cup in Group C. They will not be in Group C this time. That has been taken up by Argentina. And we'll find out what group France go into here on this World Cup Qatar draw. It's going to discover Canada's opponent.
D1.
It is D.
I think it is going in order, to be honest.
Maybe.
I think
you think it is?
I think they're just drawing.
Well, why would they draw the numbers? Maybe it is.
It seems like they're drawing red balls out of the
the
group.
But maybe the order that
they're just
pulls
assigning
them
them
out. Maybe the order that
assigning
pulls
them.
out.
Yeah,
they just go in. All right.
Yeah, I think that's how this is working.
Okay.
It's okay. We learn things on the fly every day, don't we? Here's Spain.
Okay. Here's
Spain in Group E.
Spain go to Group E. The Spanish will start in Group E, unless suddenly things happen again. But
I think that's
Spain.
what's happening.
So, by the way, again, crossovers. Argentina, France group crosses over. So you win the group, you get France, you finish your second, or you get that. So remember that. It is going in order. Spain go into E1.
Yeah, Spain
I
into
think Spain
E1.
were in E in the Euros as well, if I remember. E1 was Spain in the Euros when they hosted games in Bilbao with Poland. I'm pretty sure they were in E.
Yes, they did. They
as
did.
Well.
So that was a good matchup.
Go. So now the only teams left to be drawn out of pot. Oh, let's see. Well, by the way, let's see what Cafu gives us first here for Group F. We'll cross over with Spain. Belgium. Roberto Martinez's team were ranked 1 in the world for 5 years before the last ranking came out yesterday, and Brazil took them over. I don't think they're losing any sleep, Charlie, about losing number 1 ranking in the world.
I don't think they care. They're still in pot 1. That's really what matters to them.
That's still what matters to them.
And it's not like they've won a lot of World Cups while being ranked first in the world. So
Tim Cahill in charge of Group F has decided Belgium will go to Group F1 for them. So Belgium and Spain could clash. We don't know. We'll see with the crossover for that group as well.
That's entirely possible.
Who's left? Portugal and Brazil.
So Portugal and Brazil in groups G and H.
They could cross again.
A possible round of 16 clash.
It's happened before.
It has.
2010.
That's
Brazil.
a tasty one, a fun one.
G1.
Brazil into Group G.
And so I'm going to already write it down. Portugal's in H.
Yep.
Portugal go to H.
Portugal in H.
As well. Yeah.
Right.
So there we go. So, they are your first 8 teams drawn, and we're already 52 minutes past the hour. So Qatar A1, England B1, Argentina C1, France D1, Spain E1, Belgium F1, Brazil G1, and H1 is Portugal. So there you go.
We've learned something. There is something new here.
Yeah, there you go.
We're on our way. Pot 2 is when it starts to really come together.
This is when it really starts together. A reminder for you watching in Canada, and I know there's many of you, the moment that you see, and Portugal have just been drawn by Cafu into Group H, by the way, on the live stream. You're watching along with us. A reminder that the US and Mexico will get the next groups, that Canada cannot get those groups. So just remind yourself with that, and then we'll see what happens
Cut it
after
down to
that.
6.
There's also a chance that you'll start to see 2 UEFA teams get in, and there's going to be other ones that Canada will be ineligible to get as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But Portugal are in H1, so that's what we figured. Now we go to Pot 2. Pot 2, Denmark in their 6th World Cup, Netherlands in their 10th, Germany in their 20th, Mexico in their 17th, the Americans are in their 10th, Switzerland in the 11th, Croatia in their 6th out of 7 as a FIFA member, and Uruguay in their 14th. Some formidable opponents with real World Cup
Very
history
tough
here.
ones.
And my mate Lothar Matthäus is getting in the action here. So Matthäus comes to draw the first ball. Maybe he'll draw Germany fittingly.
This is a big moment.
Big moment. Let's see where they go here.
What's he got?
Netherlands.
Okay.
He's drawn the Dutch. So let's find out.
So does that put them in Group A, or are they drawing a letter as well?
I believe they probably. We're going to find out what's going to happen here right now. Jermaine Genius is going to let everybody know. But the Dutch are drawn, and we're going to see where they go and where they're going to put them.
I think that puts them in Group A.
The Dutch have got Group A. The Dutch are with Qatar. So that makes the draw a lot easier to follow, actually. That's a lot easier for them to do that. The Dutch are given A4. They will be
they
in
don't
Group
get the opening
A.
game.
They do not get the opening game. The Dutch play in Qatar's group, but do not play the opening game. They will have to wait to find out if that is in that game. So here is the team that will be placed in the next group with England. Let's find out who that will be. And Lothar Matthäus is probably going to give Germany England, isn't he? The USA.
United States.
USA are drawn with England.
So Canada can't get them. Canada can't play England.
Canada cannot play England. There you go. This is 2010 all over again. England played the United States in 2010 in South Africa, and 12 years later, they've been given. They're having a little joke with Carly Lloyd on stage right now, as they should. Great to see Carly there as well.
Wonder what Tim Howard's up to.
Let's see where England are given what slot, but the Americans will play England in the World Cup in Qatar. That is no longer an opponent Canada can reach. Canada will not be in Group B. England will go to USA will go to B3. So again, we do not have an opening game yet to schedule in that group, Charlie.
Yeah, so. I believe that they still will play on the first day of the World Cup, though. I think Group
Jordan asks, can someone explain why US is higher than Canada in the rankings? Well, just history. Gold Cups, lots of times there. And I know they didn't make the World Cup last time, but it's based on a long time, but going back. So
takes a long time. Here's Mexico.
Mexico are drawn into Group C. Canada will not face Lionel Messi. Canada will not be in Argentina's group because Mexico is the second CONCACAF team out immediately, and they play South America. Keep an eye on that group, by the way, because now there's no UEFA team in it. They're going to have to get a UEFA team, I would imagine, in that group at that point.
I would assume so.
So Mexico go into Group C with Argentina. That's kind of nice. I like that kind of. I like that.
That's a fun game. That's a fun game. Mexico and Argentina. Chucky Lozano.
That's right. Yeah. Let's see where they go. They're given number 3.
C3.
C3 for Mexico. So Argentina, Mexico are in Group C. And now we know for Canada, your groups you will not get. Group B and Group C are no longer groups that you can get. So Group A is on, folks. Group A is on.
Board. It's still there.
Just letting you know, it's a possibility that we have not lost that chance for Canada to get Qatar and the Dutch, which at this point
Denmark.
The Danes are next, and they go with France, which is really exciting. By the way, they got them last time. They're in the same group in 2018.
They did.
They played them last time in Russia.
They'll fancy themselves I think in that game.
2 big European superpowers in that group. And we're starting to think now, we have to start thinking about Canada. France, Denmark is not a group you want, Charlie.
No, that's a tough group that's shaping up. Yeah. That's not one I want. They get D3.
Denmark.
We still don't have a game yet. We still don't have an opening game yet.
Still don't have an opening game in each group quite yet. But right now on the board for Canada,
thank you.
Qatar and Netherlands, or France and Denmark, and then we're going to see what else goes on as Lothar Matthäus pulls out at the next ball for Group E,
Spain,
which will be in Spain's group.
Does that say? Who does that say? Germany. Okay, Germany and Spain. I don't want that group for Canada either.
That group either.
Absolutely not.
2010 champions against the 2014 champions. Can we please just all pray we don't get Group E?
Group E is terrifying.
I want a superpower, but that is
not 2. I don't want 2.
That is a diabolical group to get out of, by the way. Spain and Germany, 2 of the best possession-tasted teams in world football, coming together in the group. Are you kidding?
Spain.
Maybe they get the first
such
game
a
here.
Team on the
Maybe
rise.
Timmy Cahill can give us number 2.
E3.
Number 3.
We're getting
Three
3
again.
every time.
It's 3 almost every time, apart from the first
Yeah.
one.
Except
So
for
Spain and
Netherlands.
Germany are in the same group, and that is absolutely unbelievable. Enjoy this, by the way. You're never going to get a group like this ever again in 2026, lads. Like, these guys are just going to be all seeded for fun.
No more groups of death.
No more groups of death for that. Mateus has put the Germans in the Spanish group, and he's put Croatia with Belgium. He's put Croatia with Belgium into Group F. So that'll be interesting. 2 teams who made the final 4 in the semi-final in 2018 World Cup.
Yes.
We'll see.
Good teams, very strong.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that group if I'm Canada compared to some of the other ones.
Charlie, mate, anything's looking better than Group E. Okay.
Anything is better than Group E. That's
anything's looking better than Group E for Canada, lads. Let's be honest.
That's absolutely true.
Tim Cahill draws 4.
F4.
F4 for Croatia. Belgium. A reminder, 1 plays 2 first, 3 plays 4. Second games, 1 plays 3, 4 plays 2. Last game, 4 plays 1, 2 plays 4. So we now know Belgium and Croatia will be the last game in that group. And they may well be looking to try and get to the point where they've already won the games. Uruguay cannot go into Group G.
They can't.
Because they've been drawn to go into Group G with Brazil. They cannot go in there. So they have to go in Group H. So Uruguay go with Portugal. I'm sure that's what they're just explaining right now on the stage. But they've been drawn into G, but they cannot play there. A reminder: no teams can play from the same kind of federation unless you're UEFA. So they will go.
So then
that
puts Switzerland with Brazil.
That does put Switzerland with Brazil
again. A 2018 rematch.
Same again. 2018 rematch. Brazil played Switzerland then as well
in the group stage. And they both got out of that group, I think. So
So there you go. So
all right.
Uruguay go into H3. So again, we don't have a match yet of any of these first seeded versus second seeded.
Nothing.
Brazil is probably going to get Switzerland in the first game. We're going to have a first seed versus a second seed
eventually.
So it's coming together. And we're starting to imagine groups here, friends.
It's shaping up.
We're starting to imagine the groups here. What could happen?
Yeah, we're still waiting on a game. We know now 2 teams in each group, and we can see which ones are the tough ones already.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of fun matchups coming here. So
they're now drawing Switzerland's number.
Place in Group G. Yeah.
Yeah. So Uruguay went with Portugal. Switzerland will be given. Let's give us number 2.
3
again.
What is going on?
Oh, there's 3s coming out. It's remarkable.
All 3s.
6 3s and 2 4s in that round of draw.
So that's 1 and 3 are the second game of the group, right? So
Correct.
That's a lot of these big powerhouse matchups will be the second game of the group.
That's right.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
So
second game of the group will be England, US, Argentina, Mexico, France, Denmark, Spain, Germany, Brazil, Switzerland, and Portugal, Uruguay. All second games of the group. So
we're in pot 3. Here we go.
We're flying through this group now. Here we go.
We are past the top of the hour. So
yeah, and we're now halfway through the draw, by the way. So let's find out next who these seeds are from the third. We've got Iran.
Shout out to Iran. There's a lot of people from Iran in the chat. So there you go.
A lot of people from Iran in the chat. And let's see where they get put because they cannot go in A. Correct, right, Charlie?
I believe so.
They can't go into A.
Can't play Qatar.
They're explaining it right now, and Jermaine Gillis, I think he's going to put them in Group B.
So is that how it works? Then you go directly to the next group,
the next one,
or the next eligible.
Iran are in with England and the US.
Okay.
England and the US are with Iran, and Iran will be drawn next to find out their number. And England will play Iran in their first World Cup game.
On the first day of the World Cup.
First day of the World Cup.
21st of November.
England against Iran. Wow. There you go.
Okay. All right. That's one. There's going to be a game played. We've got one. So let's draw
England
another team
against
here.
Iran, and they've got the US in there as well. I'd imagine the next team pulled will go in Group A.
Senegal. Okay.
Senegal. That group just got very tough.
It did. Senegal's probably pretty happy about that, though.
I think they're very happy about that.
If that's Group A.
Yeah.
I think that Senegal will fancy themselves to get out of that group with Qatar,
So
and
Qatar
Netherlands.
and the Netherlands will, we believe, get Senegal.
Let's
Let's
what
work
I'm
this
assuming.
out, because there's only so many groups that they can go into, and they're explaining that right now as well. But yeah, they go
There
into
we
group,
are.
they go into Group A. So that's fascinating.
Okay, that'll be a balanced group, a competitive group.
Yeah.
I think A3.
A3.
Right.
Senegal play Netherlands in their first game of the World Cup on the first day of the World Cup.
Yep.
Right. There's 4 games in the first day of the World Cup, and we now know one. We now know 2 of them: England, Iran, Senegal, Netherlands. Will be 2 of the first 4 games in the World Cup. So that is Group A and B coming together pretty nicely. Next up, we have pulled the team from Pot 3, Poland. And we told you the UEFA team would be perfect for Group C. Poland, Charlie, going into C. I think Charlie may have frozen. So right now it's just me. If Nick can confirm, I think Charlie's gone a second there. Maybe he'll be back in the chat in a second. So Poland are into Group C. We get Charlie back in a second. And we're going to find out where they get placed. Argentina and Mexico are in that group. And Poland go into C4. Poland go into C4 with Argentina and Mexico in their first game of the day of the World Cup, Mexico versus Poland. So we'll see how that goes as the draw continues to go through Pot 3. Charlie's back with me, I think. Just about.
I think I'm back. My Wi-Fi got too excited.
It's all good, mate.
Poland.
Yeah. We're just seeing Serbia draw now, and they cannot go into Group D because 2 UEFA teams are already there.
Group E.
So
or Group F.
Group E and Group F.
So they'll go to Group G then, I suppose.
I think they moved them on. So D, E, and F all have three. They already have UEFA teams in them, right? Yeah. So, by the way, that's very precarious for Canada as well, because the UEFA team cannot go in those groups either, right? So you're looking at Canada right now as groups they can go into. They cannot. It's going to be very difficult to avoid them 2 European teams.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking at.
B,
right
E,
now.
and F are very much on the board for Canada. So that's G2 for Serbia.
Serbia get G2.
So they'll kick off against Brazil. And hang on, that's again another team from that group in 2018.
2018, yeah. Brazil,
so if they get
Switzerland, and Serbia, and Costa Rica was that group.
Which is still alive. That's completely possible this time, isn't it?
It is.
So
So Brazil, Switzerland, Costa Rica, and Serbia were in Group E last time. The next team drawn was Tunisia. They'll go with France and Denmark, no?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So.
Yeah,
that's what makes the most sense. Okay, all right, that's a good group as well. Group D, France and Denmark.
France and Denmark. That's a tough group for them.
Yes, it is.
I believe that's where they're going to go.
Yeah, they're going into Group D. So
Group
we still
D
got
France and
Japan,
Denmark.
Morocco, and Korea. And I believe that they can all go into any of those last 3 groups, right?
D4.
Japan, Morocco, and Korea. D4 for Tunisia.
D4. They played Denmark in their first game of the World Cup. We now know Canada cannot go in B. They cannot go in C. We know some teams in Pot 4 are already unable to go in some of these groups, Charlie, as well.
D, E, and F.
This is going to be precarious. Remember, Cameroon can't go in groups with African teams, right?
Yeah.
Ecuador can't go in groups with South American teams.
Oh, boy.
Saudi Arabia can't go into a group with A or B. They can't go in either of those. This is getting very, very close to knowing where Canada can go here, guys, because already it's becoming the UEFA, the playoff spots. Peru can't go in with a South American team either. So it's I'm looking at that Group G right now. I'm thinking that could be Canada here, but let's see how we go. We're on the fly. E4 is Japan. Japan going with Spain and Germany. There are not many groups left for Canada here on the fly here, by the way.
There really aren't. Group G, it would be fascinating. And again, it would be Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, and a CONCACAF team, the same as 2018.
Same as 2018. Yeah, Morocco has just been drawn. So Morocco are drawn as well. And there's not many places. Well, they can go into F or H, right? We're down to this. This is it.
Yes.
So Morocco with Belgium and Croatia, or what's the other team left in this group?
I believe so. Korea, South Korea.
South Korea.
I think we'll go into Group H here. So
Okay.
Portugal, Uruguay, and Korea.
Okay. There we go.
All right. We're getting close. We're getting very, very close.
Going to be. They're in F3, by the way. Morocco.
F3.
Morocco in F3. They play Croatia first game for the World Cup. Belgium, Morocco, Croatia. As we work on the fly here, and that means the Korea Republic will go into H with Portugal and Uruguay.
Yes. Yes, they will, and that will be again a tough group. And I believe Canada could get that one. That's on the table for them.
Can we talk about how hard Group E is, by the way? Spain, Germany,
That's terrifying.
And Japan. It's terrifying.
Absolutely horrifying group.
Like, that is the one we have to try and, like, at this point,
Just
the rest of them are
Group E.
competitive, but that would be a disaster. Like, just do not want Group E, please.
Anything but Group E for Canada.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh my God.
Please. So this is the position of Korea Republic in Group H. They go into 4. So Korea Republic go into 4, and now we're down to it. This is it.
Here comes pot 4. This is where we find out
right now. Cameroon, Canada, Ecuador, Saudi Arabia, Ghana, playoff 1, playoff 2, UEFA 1, and there's only so many.
John Herdman on the screen.
Yeah, there's only so many places that we can go here. So
they're going to draw the opening game here. This next team drawn will be the first game of the World Cup against Qatar because A2 is still not there.
I know. I'm just wondering though, if a team gets drawn, they can't. I'm trying to figure out which teams can go in which because they can't get themselves. They can't get themselves in a mess.
So
here.
Cameroon can't go in Group A.
Cameroon can't go in A. No.
Neither can Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia Ghana. Can't go in A. No. And a lot of the playoff teams can't go in A either.
I believe the AFC CONMEBOL playoff can't go there either. So Group A
or UEFA. Oh no, UEFA could.
Okay.
Yeah, UEFA. Could.
Yeah.
Who's this team? He's UEFA right now. Playoff team.
It's a playoff. Intercontinental Playoff 1.
Intercontinental Playoff 1.
I'm not sure which one is 1. Is that the Asia and South America one, or is it the CONCACAF and Oceania one?
I'm not sure either. I think Intercontinental Playoff 1. I don't know. Let's find out what they say.
If they are put in that group in Group A, then it's the CONCACAF one. All right, so it's not.
Where's he going?
So that'll be Group D.
D.
So that'll be
the only group that they can go into.
Peru, Australia, or the UAE.
Right.
Yes. So they're D2. They'll play France in their first game.
And it's not Costa Rica, New Zealand, no?
No. I'm assuming that it's the other one because those teams can't play Qatar or Iran.
That's true.
Or Argentina.
Okay.
So this will be Group A, I assume.
Let's see who they pull. Ecuador. They can go in A.
They can go in Group A.
Yeah.
So I think
they can.
I guess that means the first game of the World Cup will be Qatar, Ecuador.
So Ecuador have been pulled. Intercontinental Playoff 1 into Group D.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going
Ecuador
into Group
is
A.
your last team into Group A and will play Qatar in the first
November 21st.
We have our first group
A2.
of Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal, and the Netherlands. That is Group A.
Netherlands loves that group.
It's a great group, by the way. Well, it's a proper World Cup group, and
real four different confederations.
By the way, whoever comes out of A and B right now isn't looking very strong either. Like,
no,
there's not a lot of teams you're going to fear if you're playing Group B, right? Like,
no, remember, I don't think so.
If Canada gets drawn here, they can't go in B. They cannot go in C. This is Saudi Arabia.
They'll go in C then.
They can't go in B either.
They can't. They can't play Iran. So I think they'll be in Group C here.
Argentina, Mexico, and Poland. Remember, Canada has to avoid Group E at all costs at this point.
Yeah, I'm getting worried about that. I'm getting really worried about that.
That Group E is incredibly precarious. Saudi Arabia go to Group C, and they play Argentina, Mexico, and Poland. And Argentina's first opponent in the World Cup is Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
And we decided, Charlie, that D2 was Peru, UAE, or Australia.
Yeah,
yes?
I'm fairly certain that that's that playoff, because the CONCACAF and New Zealand playoff could have gone in Group A.
Yeah, exactly. So the next team drawn out of the hat,
don't be Canada. Do not be Canada.
This is Canada. This is Group E. Playoffs. Now, can they go there?
They can't go into Group B, so they're going to go in Group E.
This is Costa Rica, New Zealand going into E.
Costa Rica can't go into Group B, so they're going in Group E, and Canada have avoided that.
So they have to go in Group E.
Yeah. So Canada have avoided Group E, I think.
I want to see you pull. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Pop the champagne, Canada. You're not in Group E.
All right.
This is massive.
So Canada will be in Group F, G, or H. That's
my goodness. Now. What a scare that would have been. Costa Rica or New Zealand with Spain, Germany, and Japan. Right. Good luck, lads.
We're getting Belgium, Brazil, or Portugal.
So this Canada's F, G, or H. Now, who's left though? Because Cameroon, can they go in any of these? They can't go with Morocco.
No, they can't. Neither can Ghana.
So it's F for Canada then.
It's probably Group F. European playoff in Group B.
It's F. It has to be, surely.
I think so. Yeah, so Group B there is getting Scotland, Wales, or Ukraine.
Against England.
Against England will be fun.
So Group B gets Scotland, Wales, or Ukraine.
Those playoffs still yet to be played. I think are both games in June? I think so.
Yeah, in June. Yeah, Wales are waiting for the winner of that team. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So who's left, Charlie? We've got
Cameroon, Canada. I think that means Canada are in Group F. I think Canada have to be in Group F
because the other teams cannot be with Morocco.
They cannot play Morocco.
Canada has Belgium, Morocco, and Croatia in the World Cup. It's done.
That's it. That's who it is.
Canada in Group F with Belgium, Morocco, and Croatia.
Canada's going to play Belgium in their first game at the World Cup.
Yeah, it's done.
I think there's probably a date for that. Group F. That is the 23rd of November, 2022. Canada plays Belgium at the World Cup.
Exactly.
That's nuts. That's insane. I want to see Canada drawn. I want to see it happen.
Canada could be the last team pulled out of the whole draw, right?
They could well be. Here's Cameroon going into Group G.
Cameroon going G with Brazil, Serbia, and Switzerland, and we're down to Canada.
That's a tough group.
That's a tough group. And we're down to Canada going in at F2 with Belgium, Morocco, and Croatia. It's done. And Canada will play Belgium, Morocco, and Croatia. And Group H will be Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and Korea.
Yep. That's what's happening. Canada haven't played Belgium since 1989. They've played Morocco 3 times. They played them in 2016. They lost 4-0.
Okay.
They've never played Croatia in a competitive match.
Right.
So that'll be a new one for Canada. Wow. So
there you go. We know the draw.
There's John Herdman on the screen. He's
in Group F.
He's thinking.
Canada
that's not bad.
No, I agree. And they're 2, right? So they play Belgium first.
Play Belgium first. Get that out of the way. Those jitters will be gone. Croatia are a fantastic team, but Luka Modric is going to be 37 by the time they kick off.
Yeah.
They're an aging team on a downward curve a little bit.
Right.
They might not have the pace of Canada. They're a very well organized team and a very, very strong team in midfield, but that'll be a fascinating game for Canada to play and maybe hit on the counter a little bit. And here it comes. This is it. Canada in a World Cup draw. I need a picture of that. I need a picture of Canada being held up. There's John Herdman's face on the TSN broadcast. He looks pleased about it.
Well, it's a great group for Canada. I mean, they just
so.
avoided Spain, Germany, and Japan.
Yeah,
like
that's well. I mean, the thing is, if Canada are able to get out of this group,
yeah,
then they'll be playing Group E.
Yeah, bring them on.
You'll probably be getting Spain or Germany in the round of 16 if you're able to come second in that group and get out of it.
That's right.
But that is a bridge that we shall cross when we come to it.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay.
There is the World Cup draw, everybody.
20 minutes after the top of the hour, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. But let me know what you think. That is a fantastic draw. Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal, Netherlands in A. England, Iran, USA, one of Scotland, Ukraine, Wales in Group B. Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Poland in Group C. France, one of Peru, United Arab Emirates, or Australia in Group D with Denmark and Tunisia. I don't know if that's right. Yeah, it is right. Yeah, that's right. Spain, Costa Rica, New Zealand, Germany, and Japan. Belgium, Canada, Morocco, Croatia. Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon. Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and Korea Republic. Charlie, your thoughts?
I think Canada's happy. I think the Netherlands are very happy. Group B will be very, very fun to watch. England, USA, Iran, and one of those other European teams. There will be some very, very heavy matchups, I think, in that group. But there's a lot. Yeah,
it's exciting, no? I think we have to tell the story of being live on a World Cup stream and the chance of Spain, Germany, Japan looming all over us.
I was very scared. It looked like it was going to happen. That's really what it looked like, especially when we got to that point where Group B was being drawn and Canada couldn't be in Group B, and the only one left was that Group E. But they avoided it, thankfully.
They did.
Was it Costa Rica or Peru or Costa Rica or New Zealand that got that group?
Yes,
I think so. They won't be very happy. Sorry, Costa Rica.
No, no.
Yeah, there it is. Canada in a World Cup.
Remind us the last time Canada played. They've never played Croatia competitively, have they?
No, they haven't. They played Belgium once. They lost 2-0 in 1989 in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And they've played Morocco 3 times, and most recently in 2016 when they went to Marrakesh and they lost 4-0 in a friendly.
Amazing.
I assume.
Amazing.
So.
Okay, fantastic. Wow. Oh, this is just incredible. What a draw that was. Nick, it's been fantastic. This is just
2 hours and 20 minutes of talking about football. I see Richie Larea in the.
Let's bring him in. Let's bring him in
there.
We
bring Richie in.
Richie.
Hey, KJ, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
Good. How you guys doing?
So happy you're back, man. I know you've been stuck in traffic for 3 hours getting back to Nottingham, but your immediate reaction as the draw just happened to getting Belgium, Morocco, and Croatia, my man.
Yeah. Just finished watching it with my family. Actually, it's crazy. It was nice to see our name get drawn and to see who we're going to be playing against. So that was special. It was obviously nerve-wracking because you're waiting to see where the team lands and who we're going to play against and all that. So it was finally nice to see where we're going to be playing against and who and all of that.
It's a little different to watch a World Cup draw with that perspective, right? I'm sure you watch it most years, but this year it's like you got to think a little bit more. I'm playing that team. I'm going to be in that game, right? That's got to be a real weird feeling.
Yeah. It's a weird one. I'm usually watching these with my parents, and obviously both from Ghana, and it's they're seeing where Ghana's going to place, but now it's like we're doing it for Canada. And it's funny, they were so supportive. They forgot all about our Ghana heritage, and they were all for looking to see where Canada was going to place and how that was going to go.
That's what happens when dad plays for the team, mate. It's just like got to look after who daddy's going to play. Listen, Belgium have been ranked number 1 in the world for 5 years. Brazil just passed them, but you get to play them for the first game of the World Cup. Belgium, how special is that going to be?
Yeah, that's going to be big time. Honestly, with the group that we have, I think guys wouldn't want it any other way. You want to go head to head with the best in the world, and they're one of obviously the best footballing countries in the world. So it's going to be a class experience for us. But like guys have said and like John has said, we're going to win these games. That's where our mindset is. That's what we're going to go do. Qualifying wasn't enough. We want to be top of CONCACAF. We want to go undefeated, and unfortunately, we didn't do that. But now it's about going to this World Cup and going head to head with a team like Belgium, and saying, all right, it's great. They have X, Y, and Z, and this guy plays there, this guy plays here, but it's about us going into this knowing that we can win these type of games, and I think we put people on noise, but this is about doing it to an even higher extent against a great opponent.
Absolutely. And now the next, I think it's 8 months, more or less, until the World Cup starts. You guys know what's coming. It's no longer just this nebulous, we're in the World Cup, we don't know what's going to happen there. You know when those games are, you know who you're playing. So the real preparation can start now, right?
Yeah, exactly. It starts now. Obviously guys have all watched that and they know who we're going to be playing against. So, I've already exchanged a few text messages with guys on the team. Guys are excited. Guys are ready. Guys want to get to work now and start going. So it's going to be exciting. Now everyone has 8 months to use, obviously all these competitive club games that guys play across the board on our national team now have a little bit more behind it. You're not only playing for your club, which obviously we all love and want to do, but now it's like these games mean even more that you have to put even an extra bit because you're gonna go play against the likes of a Belgium. So I think everyone's just gonna be excited. It's gonna be 8 months of preparation that people I think will be foaming from by their mouth by it, because it's gonna be exciting.
Couple more questions, Richie, and we'll let you go. I know you had a red-eye flight home and you've been in traffic for 4 hours getting to the Nottingham sunshine. But listen, the other thing about this is great is that you've got experienced teams. And you can look at that two different ways, right? But Belgium are full of experienced players. It's maybe their last shot of their golden generation. Croatia has still got Modric in the group. They were in the final last time. And Morocco have got a lot of good players as well. That's going to be a fascinating thing for you in the group. You want to play teams like that, surely.
Yeah, no, that's what I just said to you. Those are the type of teams you want to play against. You want to we talk about all the time and preach about making statements and wanting to be against the best of the best. And those teams are the best of the best. So it's, I think just very exciting for us. These teams are obviously going to challenge us. It's going to be a little bit different than the teams we've played against so far. But again, with the group we have, it's going to be nothing new to them, nothing new to the group. John and his staff, I'm sure, are probably planning already now. They probably just saw the draw and they're already getting to work now and doing all the things necessary to make sure that we're ready for the game.
John's already making notes, I'm sure.
Has
it set in for you now? You're going to the World Cup. You're going to play these teams. It's happening.
Yeah. Today made it a little bit more real. I think even after the game against Jamaica and even after we played Panama and realized that we clinched number one spot, it still didn't really hit me. But, watching it, seeing some of the legends of the games up on the stage and obviously the draw, it makes you look at it and you're like, wow, yeah, this is really happening. So sinking in a little bit more now, but it's just all still surreal. It's an unreal moment.
Last one for you, Richie. You talk about John and the staff in preparation. That now includes games before the World Cup, and a lot of teams pick opponents that are quite similar to the one. So you haven't played a lot of European teams in big games. Now you've got 2 European teams. How crucial will that be to get a couple of these teams ahead of the World Cup that you can prepare for that kind of style?
Yeah, no, I think it'll be they'll already be planning and have ideas of what they want to do. Like you said, they're so they're very tech savvy and smart with that type of stuff that they'll get us prepared in the best way possible to suit the conditions that we're about to go endure come the World Cup. So I think it's really important for us to start playing opponents similar to teams like that, because those are the guys that we're going to be playing against come November, so I don't know who that will be exactly, but I'm sure it'll be, obviously has to be great opponents because we have teams such as Belgium, Croatia, and Morocco in the group, so it's going to have to be something very similar.
And that will be the order: Belgium first, Croatia second, Morocco third. That's your order of games as well. So, look, my man, I can't thank you enough for joining us. You're a rock star. Go love your kids. Go enjoy the time. You deserve it. And cheer on Forest all the way to the Premier League, mate. Good luck.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Enjoy it.
Thank you very much. The great Richie Larea, just as I said, landed back in England, got back with his family today, joins us for immediate reaction here. And immediate reaction will continue. Let's put up the graphic and what Canada have got before Charlie and I pass it over to the legends themselves at One Soccer to break this down and get more reaction. Here they are. The times of the games have not been released. This is the one thing that is different this year. The times of the games will be automatically organized over the next few days. But Belgium versus Canada is assigned to the 23rd of November. Croatia versus Canada is next, and Canada versus Morocco. Let's just stay in it, guys. Stay in it all the way to that game. Have a chance and get through that group. That's the most exciting part of it. And a reminder, we avoided Group E, we being Canada, and if Canada can get through, they will go over to the knockout stages with the legends and the giants of Group E. Spain and Germany await over that side. So, yes, you can start dreaming. That's what this sport's about. Dream of a potential last 16 game against World Cup winners like Spain and Germany. Charlie, final thought before we pass it over to the greats.
It's so exciting. It's so real now. We know what's happening. Canada are in the party. They've got their ticket, their invite to the party, and they are definitely going there to be competitive. That's a reasonable group for Canada, and they will certainly fancy themselves to at least be in with a shout of getting out of it.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's the realistic expectation. And teams like, Croatia, they're a team that's, they peaked in 2018. They're on the decline. They got some good young players, no doubt about it. We can go through many of them. These teams are tough, but as you said off the top of the show, it's a World Cup. The teams are good. So we can never avoid anything like that. We cannot thank everybody for joining us. We are not going anywhere. We're passing you over to the next schedule here. We are 2.5 hours into this monumental, unique day in Canadian soccer. Charlie, go and have a Guinness, mate. You enjoy it. You deserve it. Take the next 3 days off, please. Go put your feet up and do whatever you need to do. You've been a superstar as usual. Thanks to the guest. Thanks to Richie Larea for joining us. That was fantastic. Earlier to Janusz Michallik as well. Ollie was on early with Alex and Tom Craig as well. And Ollie's back. And I think Andy's back and Wheels is back. So you can push them up and bring them in anytime you want. Immediate reaction here from the One Soccer team. Here they are. And I'll pass it over to these guys. Charlie, thanks so much, my man.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Good job, guys.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, can everyone hear me? Is everyone good? KJ, you gentlemen were absolutely fantastic. What a great. Okay, so I will say this. I know there's a lot being said about the pomp and circumstance of the show. I think they got a little carried away and started to treat it like an Olympics. There was a little bit of
a lot
of dancing.
Just embrace it once every 4 years.
It was the
I'm with you, Wills.
Negative. Listen, I'm all about pomp and circumstance. It was very opening ceremony like. So I will enjoy that every step of the way. So I thought they did a great job. But now we know the group, and everyone wants to know here what this means for Canada. And I know you gentlemen have been on for quite a bit talking about this, and this is the big one. And I have to say, I love the suspense. Because knowing where each country falls into the group, immediately we knew that Canada needed to avoid, of course, that big group there. Of course, we didn't want them to be in Group E. So now when we look at Group F, what do we make in particular of Belgium, a team that has been ranked number 1 for so long, obviously now ranked number 2? Gareth, I'll start with you. What would be Canada... the expectations of taking on a team like Belgium for their first game at the World Cup?
Well, it's quite the introduction back to the World Cup stage, isn't it? That's one of the top 3 teams I probably want to miss alongside France and Brazil, to be honest with you. But look, you get thrown into the fire right away. It sets the standard. And then I think you have 2 games that follow that I think that you can go out and get a result. Perhaps you catch Belgium in that first game. Look, we don't need to, of course we will list the players. You're playing Kevin De Bruyne, like my favorite midfield player in the world today. He's just absolutely phenomenal to watch. What's a Canada back line? How are they going to fare against just a beast up top like Romelu Lukaku? These are the first things that go through my mind. Like, this is the ultimate test in your first game in the tournament. Then you move on to Morocco. There's some real talent in this Moroccan side. I know that they're not the most sexy of teams, but they dispatched the Democratic Republic of Congo with ease in World Cup qualifying. This is a country that was at the last World Cup in a difficult group featuring Spain and Portugal. Don't sleep on them. And Nesri's a very good striker up top. El Haddadi, 2 players that play for Sevilla in La Liga. So I think they are better in attack than they're going to get credit for. And like KJ said, as we were coming on here, this Croatian side, I think their best days are behind them. They had a relatively easy World Cup qualifying group with Russia. I think it was Slovakia. It wasn't a very strong group, and there were some serious questions leading into World Cup qualifying what this team would look like. They got knocked out of the Euros in a dramatic game against Spain. It was 5-3 in extra time. It was bonkers. It was wild. But I like a younger Canadian attack going up against an aging back line. Vida, of course, plays his club football with who? Atiba and Larin at Besiktas. His best before date is well past. I mean, Luka Modric is an absolutely phenomenal player. He's 36 now. Perisic, 33. Like, this is an aging team. I said it on One Soccer today. Out of the, understanding that you couldn't draw a group with United States and Mexico, Croatia was that next team that I wanted from that group. I think they're vulnerable. I think that they're beatable. I'm not thinking about the World Cup finalists of 2018. I'm just thinking of a team that a lot has happened since then, and their core players have got older. So look, all things considered, it's a good group. It's one that Canada will approach with absolutely no fear whatsoever. And I think that by virtue of getting Belgium first, getting that game out of the way, it sets a standard and you'll figure out where you stand.
Yeah, Ollie, what was your reaction?
That covered everything.
Yeah, you went through it all there.
Sorry.
We're done. See you later.
Now we need to look ahead and say, oh, get out of the group. Would they be, who would they be taking on a groupie? But we won't get that far. And about, I want to say 10 minutes time, John Herdman is actually going to be joining us here. So we'll get his reaction as well. But Ollie, after Gareth, Charlie, and KJ here giving their thoughts on the group, what did you think when you saw Canada draw? And I love that Canada was the last also to get drawn. I just loved it. It was
12 times what group they were going to end up in. I'm like, oh no, it's A, it's C, it's B, it's C. It was like, my brain almost exploded.
They saved the best for last.
I've been waiting a long time. I was getting so excited. Oh my God, no, it's not. And,
I could picture what your poor wife was going through in that household. But Canada's name finally gets drawn. They did save the best for last. Ollie, your reaction to that?
Yeah, Will's touched on it there. The really interesting thing about this draw for me is that you've got two really good European teams, vastly experienced European teams. Belgium have been deep in this tournament. Croatia have obviously been to the final. But I think they are past their best. Now, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that I think they're weak or easy teams to beat. That's obviously not going to be the case. They're going to be incredibly tough games for Canada. But they're not teams that are in their prime. Like, I really think that last World Cup felt like the one where Belgium, had a real chance to win it and weren't able to do so. So that's a really interesting matchup for Canada, because you're playing these teams that, again, have so much quality and so much know-how of playing at these tournaments repeatedly, and, players who play at the highest level of club football as well. But you just wonder, like, this is such a young, athletic Canada side. What is that matchup going to look like, right? Could that be something that plays into Canada's hands a little bit, or at least gives them a chance against teams like that? Maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I just think those are really interesting matchups for Canada. If you're going to get some of those top European teams, I think those two actually present some interesting opportunities for them. Morocco is an interesting one as well, because they're a bit of a wild card, I think, and maybe a dark horse. Like, they're not a bad team. The coach was the coach of Algeria in 2018. He got them through the group stage, which was a surprise. They've got some talent in that team. Obviously, Hakimi at PSG is the big one. They also have some problems in the team, like Ziyech doesn't play for them. Mazraoui at Ajax doesn't play for them right now. So there's some question marks there as well. But they're not going to be a pushover. But as that draw was unfolding, it basically got to the point where you're looking at every possible Canada group, and it's like there is none where you look at the group and there's one team that you think, Canada really could beat this team and get 3 points on the board and have a real chance. Every game was going to be difficult in whatever group they ended up with, and I think that's the case with Group F, but I don't think it's a group of death either. Canada, I think, has a chance here.
Yeah. Thank you to Charlie for all the hours there and the watch party and setting everything up. Did that brilliantly. So he's now checked out. I don't know how much, KJ, you put into the FIFA rankings, only because when you do look at them, it is a pretty balanced group. I mean, obviously Belgium, is the top, ranked number 2. Then you have Croatia 16th, Morocco 24th. This is going on the FIFA rankings. And then you have Canada at 38. They slipped from 33 because obviously the losses to Costa Rica and then ending off with the loss to Panama. But would you say this is a pretty balanced group?
I do think that. I think it's a good draw for Canada. I don't mean that necessarily to get through, but what will be. Two things I was looking for. I wanted Canada to play the best team first. I just think, as we all said earlier, you go back to the last World Cup, Germans got shocked by Mexico. England needed a 90th minute goal against the Tunisians, I think. I think Brazil drew against Swiss. Like the first team, the teams do not peak right away. Play that first team first. You've got a shot, right? That's what I mean. The second thing I was looking for is the two major teams out of pot 1 and pot 2. I wanted to look at them and think, I think one of you can't get through. And I look at that group right now and I think one of you might not get through. That's the key. I couldn't make that argument with Spain, Germany, guys. We could all sit here and go, what a great group that would have been. I couldn't have made the argument to say, Spain, Germany, they might not get through. I can make that argument with Belgium and Croatia. You can make that argument that they've got a shot here. So for me, I think that those things, the fact that they play Belgium first and they've got a team like Croatia, like these guys have said, that they've got a chance against. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that, I don't mean in the game. I mean over 3 games, over group stages. Croatia could lose all those 3 games. They could win them all. But I think it's very, very competitive. And Morocco, as you said, their coach, he's been fired twice before. He's gone to World Cups 4 times. He's been fired twice before going there. So they're always in turmoil as it is. Like you got Ivory Coast there and got fired. He got there last time and got fired. So who knows what's going to go on with them as well. So we'll have to find out. Do not sleep on them. They've got some good players. But I like the fact that Canada play them last. And if you've got a point before that, you've got a chance to get through here.
Yeah. All right. So we love the group of death. We talked about this on the show yesterday, and we also talked about the group of life.
Can I just add one thing? Like,
sure,
we might like the group, but I think that we're not trying to paint a picture that's not accurate here. Like when you're in pot 4, the odds are stacked against you. You're generally playing better teams. So in the 2018 World Cup, 2014 was a little bit different because there was the European group where
they did it differently.
Was like stacked with England and France and a bunch of other teams. But in 2018, just one team advanced from their group, a team that was featured in pot 4. That was Japan. And they were 1-1-1. The other teams that were in pot 4, Saudi Arabia, they won a game, finished 3rd. Morocco were in pot 4. They finished 4th. They came away with a draw. Australia 4th, Nigeria 3rd, Serbia 3rd, South Korea 3rd, and Panama just got absolutely thrashed. So we're being realistic here. Like the odds are against Canada. It's not, no one's coming and saying Canada's a better team than Croatia or Canada's absolutely going to go on here. But you need to be realistic. But all things considered, to KJ's point, it's a draw you can look at and say, yeah, you can approach this without fear.
Okay.
You're never looking for likely here. You're looking for possible, and I think they've got that with this draw.
Okay, but let's go around a little bit here and talk about the group of death. If you were to look at this, would that be Group E for you, Ollie? Who like if you look at this group and you're saying there's just no way, you'd want to be a part of that. But of course, as a viewer, you can't wait to watch the games. What group is that for you?
Yeah, it's got to be Group E, right? Like just Spain and Germany straight off the boards. Good luck to Costa Rica, New Zealand, and Japan, but I can't see any of them having a chance of getting out of that group. But there's a few that are tough, to be honest with you, like France and Denmark was one I was looking at that Canada could have been drawn into. It's like, that's going to be hard as well. I think those two stood out for me. And Group G as well with Brazil and Serbia and Switzerland. Like Switzerland never jump off the page as like a really kind of glamorous team, but they're effective.
Ollie, let's be honest. Let's be honest here, though, Ollie. There's no group of death here. There's no group of death where there's 3 or 4 teams that are absolute powerhouse. Like, what's the difference between Group E this go around than Spain and Portugal being drawn with Morocco and Iran in the last World Cup? You have two teams that are vast. And guess what? For Spain and Portugal, that wasn't easy. Getting into that group in 2018, it was a little bit. Things went sideways. There's no group of death here in this tournament. No matter, we always want to point out a group of death. There is no group of death in this.
I agree. I do love though that Spain and Germany are in that Group E, and again, to us optimistic Canadians, what a prize that would be to match up with that team, because you match up with them in the last 16. So you get a chance to go to a last 16 of a World Cup, and you're staring down the barrels of a World Cup winner in Spain or Germany to play. That is the ultimate prize. Canada's not winning the World Cup, but imagine getting to the last 16 and playing one of them two. Thank you. Yes, that's what you want. You want to play a team like that. No, that's fun. What an unbelievable prize that would be at the end of this remarkable journey. That's what I look at. That's a present that's dangling there that I want to open. That's the way I look at that one.
KJ, do you know what I'm looking at here? When Wales goes on to win Group B, there's a path deep in this tournament for Wales. Like USA
England, buddy.
smashed
Wales,
them.
England.
Iran smashed Wales. We'll beat you this time, unlike Euros. So, and then Group A is soft. Group A is very soft. I've been plotting this out just in the brief minutes that we have before coming on. So just want to throw that in there.
Whoa. We're not going to say so. We're going to call. Is it the group of life then? Is that what we're talking about?
I don't know that Group A is that soft, to be honest with you. I think if Senegal and Netherlands come out of that, they're two decent teams.
Yeah,
I think
Brazil or Germany or Spain.
I think Senegal were the best team in pot 3, and I think Ecuador, you could argue, maybe one of the best teams in pot 4 to Ollie's point. So I know what you mean. The other thing I'd say about England quickly, England got the Americans, right?
Yeah.
Canada got 2 European teams. John Herdman is English. You play teams before the World Cup in friendly games to prepare you for your opponent. England are going to want to play a CONCACAF team before the World Cup because they're playing the US, right?
Yeah,
England, Canada friendly before the World Cup. It makes sense.
Bring it on.
Right? I like it.
It makes.
I remember.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Before the last World Cup, I think everyone in Panama's group played Costa Rica in a friendly to prepare for Panama.
I mean, we can sit here and say how different Canada play to the United States. But it's just the way it is. It's just that's how a lot of these things have. Canada are now making calls to play European teams in the opposition to get ready for the World Cup. US are going to make calls to play. I mean, England are going to make calls to make CONCACAF opposition, I think.
Yeah. So if we're going to go overall storylines, I think for this World Cup as well, this is probably going to be the last time. I say probably, but it's likely. Or should I just say it's the last time we're going to see Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi at a World Cup. And it's pretty special, obviously. These are two gentlemen who are so successful in their careers. We know Portugal has won Euros. We know finally as well for Messi in Copa America, but they've never won the coveted World Cup. They have never hoisted that trophy. So Argentina in a group with Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland. Portugal is in that group with Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea. Why don't we look at Portugal first, gentlemen, and just, what are you expecting in that Group H for Cristiano Ronaldo, Ollie?
That one could be a really fun group if Ghana and Korea are decent. And I don't think this is a particularly good Ghana team. They kind of limped into the World Cup. It's not really the kind of team that we've seen at previous tournaments that has been really exciting to watch, and obviously had that really famous matchup against Uruguay, a very controversial matchup against Uruguay, which they get a rematch for there. I look at that one. I think that could be a very entertaining group, but I think Portugal should come through it fairly comfortably.
Okay. Anyone else want to touch on that, or you want to touch on Messi? Feel free. Go ahead, Gareth.
I wanted Canada to draw Argentina. I just playing an immortal player like Lionel Messi at the World Cup. I think that would have been something really special. Argentina, no team is hotter right now in international football than Argentina. I mean, when did they lose lot? Like them and Brazil are on another planet right now compared to just about anyone else. Argentina has a real shot here. I think they have a relatively easy group. Mexico played safe, looked scared during World Cup qualifying. Poland, I think they're improved from the sides that have kind of let us down at previous tournaments. I think there's more around Lewandowski this time, but enough to get past Argentina, I'm not quite sure. Obviously, then it depends on how Group D shakes out with France and Denmark. And same thing with Portugal. I mean, look, I think Lionel Messi is more likely to play in another World Cup than Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo is 36 now. And is starting to show it a little bit. In the same group, by the way, with his Manchester United teammate, Edinson Cavani. And we'll see what Uruguay can offer in this tournament. Portugal are going to be the overwhelming favorites in Group H. It's their job to go on and win the group. Guess who they play, though? Potentially Serbia, a team that was in their qualifying group and finished ahead of them and forced them to go through the back door and qualify through a playoff. So, look, there's no easy path here. But, both have won their continental championships. It's time to go on and win a World Cup. Is this the time for two of the best players that we've ever seen? Potentially, but there's a lot of good teams here.
Yeah, and that's the storyline, KJ. I mean, you're right. Who never say never until the player themselves says, I'm done and I'm not going to play. But inevitably, KJ, those two players, as much as we talk about the countries and the groups, those are the two players that will always stand out. They're the ones we talk about, especially since this is a trophy that has eluded them. What are you really, and I don't want to say that this will cement their legacy. I think their legacies have been cemented, But if you want to add the bow and the sparkles and the razzle dazzle and rainbow, of course, winning a World Cup would just put them into a completely different stratosphere. But what are you expecting from those two players in particular?
Well, first of all, it's important to know, and this is not breaking news, but they're significantly in decline. And there will be expectations on them will be far exceeding what they should be on anyway. But I think but whenever they go far, it's a fantastic draw for the World Cup and for FIFA. And I think you look at this and you go, this is a great draw for both of them. I think Gareth's bang on with Argentina. They're a scary team. When you exited 4 years ago from that World Cup in Russia, you thought, this is a shambles. Messi's retiring. It's a mess. He's never going to win anything. And now they go there with a genuine possibility, particularly when you look at this draw. Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland, they have to win the group. They have to win that group. There's no doubt they won't win that group for me. And then you think, okay, they'll play the runner-up in Group D, and then they go with A and B, which is not a strong half either. So I think there's a lot to like about what they've been given. And then Portugal as well. Portugal have given a group that they feel like they can win. It's great that Ghana and Uruguay are there together. We got the Suarez thing again after 2010.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean?
Totally forgot about that.
That's fantastic.
I was in South Africa when that happened. I mean, brilliant, KJ.
Yeah,
Well put.
that's special. I'm happy for the Ghanaians because I know they want a little bit of another bite out of Uruguay a little bit. So,
Hey, excuse me. Don't bring up bad memories from 2014 because it was the bite, and then Italy ended up losing to
the
Uruguay.
cheat, Suarez, the cheater.
Yeah, we are not going to get into that. That is for sure. Let's not forget, by the way, how great is it though to even just obviously see Messi still be part of this team and have this chance? Because what was it after Copa America 2016, where he sent the ball right over the net there in the penalty kicks, where he actually retired from the national team. It has been a long 6 years, for Lionel Messi, but it is great to obviously see him back here. John Herdman will be joining us shortly. We're waiting on the head coach of Canada, and I put out. This is a bit of a personal note because I put out a photo. It just blows my mind that the 2014 World Cup, when we were hosting that was, Rio 2014. John Herdman was a guest analyst. He came on in at the time. He was still the head coach, for the women. He came in as a guest analyst. Obviously, he's cerebral and the way he thinks the game. He was a fantastic analyst. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around him now coaching in a World Cup, going from being a guest analyst to now coaching in a men's World Cup. So, look at that. I love the people behind the scenes. They snagged that pretty quickly. Yes, look at how young he is in that photo there. And yes, I was a brunette. The brunette's fake. The blonde's real. Yeah.
Establish that.
I just wanted to put that out there very quickly. But
you can work either one, Andy. They both look good.
And I don't feel like we could talk about this enough, Ollie, and what John Herdman has been able to do for both the men and the women's program. Of course, the first head coach to bring a women's team and a men's team to a World Cup. But when you see that, and you also just know his history as well, like again, he was a guest analyst on a men's World Cup, and now here he is coaching in one, what he's been able to do for this program. It's just so phenomenal.
Yeah, it's absolutely remarkable. And it's really interesting to hear him talk about like how he kind of set that target of, what's it going to take for us to go into the first game of a World Cup and be competitive, right? And get a result in that very first World Cup game. And then you work backwards from there and you kind of plan out the amount of time you got to that potential date and put all the pieces together. Think about, what kind of progress each individual player needs to make in their own game to be ready for that moment. And you just put that picture out there and it's amazing what can happen when you have that vision and you have a plan and a coherent plan that goes along with it. And you work to that step by step, right? Like it seems like an incredible turnaround in a short period of time, but it's really, 3 or 4 years that they've been working towards this. And there's a lot of work that goes into that period of time. So yeah, it's incredible to have the coach who's going to, the first one to go to the men's and the women's World Cup. And I'm sure he'll have them ready for Belgium on November, 23rd?
Yeah, we're 233 days away, I think we are, from the start of the World Cup. And he did tell us that once this campaign was over, he's going on vacation. He deserves to take a nice long vacation. But Gareth, we both know.
Just canceled it.
Did he? He's like, he's already putting pen to paper and probably drawing up the matchups. He's looking at all the players on Belgium, Morocco, Croatia. He's doing just that. But what would you anticipate, Gareth, the next steps for Herdman? Of course, is trying to get those matchups right against teams that can prepare them here for the World Cup.
I want to let all Canadian soccer fans that preparations here are not straightforward for Canada. They're competing in the CONCACAF Nations League, a tournament that we all love. It's great for the region, play other teams. It gives other, some smaller countries the chance to advance. And it was a platform for Canada in order to take a step forward heading into World Cup qualifying. But with 2 games in June, could be against El Salvador, Panama, Curacao, like kind of the lesser likes of the region. I'm just not talking about like the Mexicos, the United States, and the Costa Ricas of the world. Is that the proper preparation that you want heading into a World Cup? Probably not. You want big marquee friendlies. Then the other thing is, if you're going to have a Canada camp, do you hold it in this country? Do you hold it overseas? What's best? How do you capitalize from a marketing perspective? Get a big number, a big ticket, make some money for the federation, getting into a big stadium. Where is that game played? Much more difficult to bring top European sides cross country to a place like Vancouver, where it's an extra, 4 or 5 hour flight to get out there than it is to play somewhere like Toronto. But you can fit more people into a stadium like BC Place. So that June window, you might get 1 game. The September window, you're getting close. That's when you want to ramp things up. You're able to have a couple more, but this isn't an easy path for Canada and just in terms of their preparation. So once again, the association will have to take advantage of their resources, invest in whatever they want. If they do have let's say an overseas camp, be willing to fly the team back and play here in Canada. And so you can get the gate. It's just going to be complicated piecing this all together. We're fortunate we have all those games in the preparation for the World Cup on One Soccer. And, we'll be waiting to hear who and when they play. But the Nations League is a big part of that. But then those glamour ties, some real difficult build-up games, I think they're vitally important for Canada. And KJ said this before. I honestly think that Canada need to play the best that they can. You almost want the team to feel some adversity. Maybe they go out and get smashed, 3-0 in a game, just to experience what's that like, something different from what they've experienced in CONCACAF. And they can use that experience to carry it forward with them, to kind of hit the ground running when they get to Qatar.
Yeah, it's the speed of the game, right? It's different a little bit over there in Europe. The one thing I think that's really helpful for Canada is a lot of their major pillars, Davies, David, Milan Boyan, many others, Larea, they're playing European football. And it comes at a crucial time, a unique time, right in the middle of the European season. So, they get that summer off a little bit, and then they get going again. The MLS guys are the ones who would have played a lot more minutes without a break. And I think that will help them a little bit too in terms of getting ready in that preparation for that first game in November. And I think that's another reason why John Herdman would like to have more players playing at that level, because obviously that will help the European teams. I don't think we're going to get a Kevin De Bruyne in a summer tournament gassed after playing 63 games for Manchester City and winning, trophies other than the Champions League that they can't win all season long. This is going to be a Kevin De Bruyne who finally gets to put his feet up on a beach in the summer and then get ready for the World Cup. And he hasn't been able to do that for years. So the European teams will be helped by that. But my final point before I go, guys, I'll just say is I do think the opponents that Canada play want the ball. And I think that helps Canada. I do think the last thing they wanted was teams who were just going to sit in and say, come to us. I still think this counter-attacking, pacey team that they've created here, and I know that evolution will eventually change, but I think that helps them against these opponents.
Yeah, great stuff. KJ, you deserve a glass of water, and you deserve to put your feet up somewhere as well. That's a lot of hours of programming here, getting us through the draw and explaining it wonderfully. So great stuff, my friend.
Thanks, he could go for another 5 hours. It's KJ.
Thanks, teammates. Always a pleasure working with you guys. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Probably could. There's Kristian Jack. Great stuff from him. You've been watching him for the last few hours here, the watch party, and taking you through the draw and all of the dances and the singing and the introduction of the mascot. It was all very fun. But John Herdman right now, we know obviously he's part of the broadcast here at TSN. He's also talking about, just to your point there, Garrett, he mentioned getting to Europe. He actually wants the team to actually make their way to Europe to try and take on some European teams. Looks like we will see one probably in June, a couple in September. But we make a lot of atmosphere, and we've loved the atmosphere, obviously, here in Canada. It's second to none in what we saw, obviously, in Edmonton and then saw at BMO Field. But do you think that also helps with preparation and going to some of these other places as well in Europe? I mean, they've experienced so much between Central America. I mean, they've had a lot of that. But I wonder as well now, just experiencing a little bit of a European atmosphere, too, for him to make that point about wanting to go to Europe to play those teams.
Think about all the games that they played through COVID and even before that. All of them have really been within CONCACAF.
Mhm.
There hasn't really been like a stiff test, among other federations. I think that, playing CONCACAF teams at this point doesn't serve a purpose for the end, for the end goal of playing at the World Cup in 2022. I'd try to play a Northern African nation as well. Tunisia, who's in the tournament, be decent preparation. Potentially Egypt, who's not even involved in this tournament. So it's not just going to play European teams. That game against Morocco is going to be crucially important. That's the one game that jumps out the page or like must win. That's their second game of the tournament. Like coming off whatever happens against Belgium, you're hoping for the best, hoping that you can catch them. But that second game against against Morocco, if you go on and win that game, then you're probably feeling relatively confident heading into the final match, knowing what's in front of you. So it's not just play,
I think, isn't it?
Pardon me.
Second one is Croatia, I think.
I had Morocco down. Maybe I got it in the wrong order, but
I may be wrong. I think it's Croatia.
I have it up here. Hold on. It's on December 1st. It's 2 versus 4, isn't it?
That's the third game. Yeah.
That still blows my mind that we're talking about games in December. And
that's the second game. Yes, you're right. You're right. So they play Morocco last. Okay.
Yeah.
That's my mistake.
It's also pretty.
Gonna be a big one.
It's going to be pretty big, but here's. I mean, we right away when I looked at the group, I immediately looked at Canada's history with these countries. I mean, the last time they were all friendlies. They've never played Croatia. The last time they played Belgium was 1989. It was a loss. They have a loss and 2 draws against Morocco. They've played them 3 times all time. The last time was 2016. I don't know how much stock you put into that, Ollie. Already what we've seen the Canadian men's team do in the last year and how they've progressed. And again, ranked in the 70s, and now here we are ranked 38th in the world, and they actually reached their highest at 33 at one point. So I don't know how much stock you put into how Canada is going to match up against these teams themselves, which are drastically different, right? They've never played Croatia. Last time they played Morocco was 2016, and the only time they played Belgium was 1989. How much do you look at those results?
I look at them absolutely zero, to be honest with you. I think the big challenge for Canada, and this again comes back to the friendlies and the preparation, is that there's just, European football is a different style of football to CONCACAF, right? Like there's so many differences between facing even the strong CONCACAF teams like Mexico and playing against a team like Belgium. So that's where, I think going to Europe and playing away in Europe, I wouldn't even say it's so much about playing in a European environment. I think you just want to play those teams away because it's harder to play them away, and you want the biggest test possible against, whether it's a Netherlands or a France or someone like that to prepare you for Belgium, right? I don't think we really know what the environment in Qatar is going to be like in an air-conditioned stadium halfway around the world. It's going to be pretty unique. But what you do need to prepare for and what you need to adjust to is the kind of football Belgium play, the challenges that presents, the opportunities it also potentially presents as well. And that's something that Canada just has not experienced any time in the past. Anytime that's relevant with this group of players, right? Because this group of players has come together over the past 2 or 3 years. So that's something that's going to be absolutely vital. Hopefully they can fit in the games they need around Nations League. And like Will said, you're probably looking at, a Northern European team. You're looking at maybe a Serbia or someone like that. I don't know how comparable these teams really are just because they're geographically close, but it's what normally happens. And then a North African team maybe to prepare for Morocco.
Yeah,
I was just thinking about the Belgium ties, Ollie. Like Jonathan David did well playing in Belgium. Tajon Buchanan's there now. Ike Ugbo was there briefly. Like there's some ties there between nations, isn't there? So it's exciting. Like, look, it's not just Lukaku, it's not just De Bruyne, Eden Hazard. I know that his game has completely changed since going to Real Madrid. Whenever he plays for Belgium, he's just absolutely dynamite. Him coming down the left, Alistair Johnston. Let's see what he can do against and Eden Hazard. It's just crazy to say. Tielemans in the middle of the park with Witsel. Like it's a balanced central midfield as well. It's a 3-4-3 formation that Roberto Martinez plays. It's not a 4-4. I think the advantage there is how Belgium's going to line up. They're very much attack minded, liking to play on the front foot. It's just such an exciting game to open the tournament in so many different angles that we're going to be able to approach it with.
I have to ask you if you believe, and I'm going to point this out right now, that the last time a country has won back-to-back World Cups was Brazil, 1958, 1962. And in recent history, the winner has not done well the following 4 years. You look at, even Italy winning in 06, don't even make it out of the group. Spain, the same thing, horrible in 2014. Germany, the same thing, didn't go well for them in 2018 after, they won in 2014. Do you think France can repeat, or is this going to be the curse of the champion? I mean, I don't understand how this happens. I don't know if in recent history how it is that you go from being the world champ to, I get it, not necessarily repeating, but then they don't even make it out of their group. I just don't know if you feel like France will fall victim to that as well.
I don't know if they'll win the World Cup, because it's really hard to win a World Cup, obviously, and even harder to win it back to back. I don't think they'll flop. There's always a bit of potential for it with France, because they've got a team of big personalities and characters, and that sometimes doesn't mix in the right way. And you can always end up in a position where, a cycle goes on a bit too long, maybe not enough changes are made to freshen the group up, and it can hurt you. But you look at this team, they have arguably the best player in the world in Kylian Mbappe, who's just getting started in his career. Kante's still world class. Varane is, still only in his late 20s. It's still a team that is full of players in their 20s playing at the absolute top of the game. In the group they've got,
amazing.
Well, exactly, and yeah, even at the age he's at, still incredible. In the group they've drawn out. If they don't get through the group stage, it will be a major shock, one of the biggest in World Cup history.
Just Roberto Martinez was on TSN. He was interviewed by Matthew Shinetti post-draw, and said that Canada is a hidden threat in the group, and their strength is their togetherness. They play like a club team. That tells me that Martinez has been watching Canada, because that's kind of our sentiment, isn't it, guys? They're so organized. It's not just a group of players that just get together and come together and play for a country, and you just try to exploit or, try to focus on your best players shining. Canada plays together in a clear system. There's a clear identity that's being developed. I think that's insightful stuff from Martinez, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I would be surprised if people weren't watching Canada, and I get it, right? We're obviously we've been the national broadcaster for this team. We've been following them. We're going to sing their praises, and rightfully so, given what they've been able to do back at a World Cup for the first time since 1986. But how you really get an understanding of how the team is viewed, obviously, is when you go to the outsiders. And what's the rest of the world saying about Canada? Now, that's a small snippet, and that's also somebody who's in the group who's not going to, maybe that's a bit of gamesmanship. Who knows, right? I don't think first day, the draw, he's going to come out and crap all over the teams that he's taking on in his group. But there's pressure, Andy. There's pressure. There is. Belgium lost to your Italians at the Euro. This is their generate. They've never had players like this before, but they haven't won a thing. No. In that first game, they need to hit the ground running. There's a lot of pressure on Belgium heading into this tournament. For sure. But I just think that in these next few months, right, leading up to the World Cup, we're going to start to really realize and hear and learn, I think, what the rest of the world also thinks of Canada. And this is just across the board in any sport. It's always that little minnow who sometimes you perhaps take advantage of, who can do something pretty spectacular. So I can also see why Martinez wouldn't necessarily take them for granted, right? Because it's well, wait a second, they've done something great. But again, it's been within CONCACAF. We're not sitting here being completely delusional. And I don't think Herdman is either, which is why he's already, it sounds like, lobbying to get those games against European teams, and also wants to be in different environments as well in playing against these teams. So that's obviously, really huge for the Canadian squad in prepping for this. Now, this is kind of interesting. And this is something you'd probably have to ask an athlete. And perhaps when John Herdman joins us, we'll be getting him in about 10, 15 minutes time. I've heard other athletes say this, whether they know they're going to the World Cup, athletes who also know they're going to the Olympics, basically big global sporting events. How do you play now, especially with your club team? Are you hesitant? Do you want to avoid injury? What are we also going to see here from many teams, not just Canadian? Obviously, we focus on the Canadian side because I've heard players say this before. Now, all of a sudden, there's a little bit of this fear of, I want to make sure I'm in the best shape of my life. And maybe there's a tackle they don't go full blown on. right? Maybe there's just a play they don't go all out on because they don't want to risk any kind of injury. I think that's going to be kind of interesting to see how John Herdman handles that. And that'll definitely be a question for him, I think, when he joins us. But I don't know what you'd be expecting from a lot of these Canadian players as they go back to their club teams and how they'll end up playing.
I mean, I don't think you can have that in your mind at all. Like, I don't know. Obviously, I wasn't a player anywhere near the level of these guys were, but I was always told that the easiest way to get injured is to start worrying about getting injured and pulling out of tackles and, you know, making bad decisions that you wouldn't normally make because you don't want to get hurt. I think you have to take that out of your minds. The focus for these guys has to be playing football week in, week out. And that's going to be, you know, where there's some interesting situations. And we've talked about, you know, Richie Larea at Nottingham Forest and things like that, particularly as we come into the summer transfer window. And even someone like Jonathan David making a big move, right? He's got to take that into consideration. Of course, he's going to be in the team for Canada no matter what, but you want to be playing, you want to be in form and, you know, playing your best football at the right time as you go into that tournament. So that's the big consideration for me. That's going to be a big story for a number of players throughout the summer transfer window is, you know, making sure all of these guys are in the best possible situation to be confident, to be informed going into that World Cup, which is obviously different coming in the middle of the season instead of at the end of it.
Yeah, if you want to play, if you want to be part of the 23-26, you need to be on good form. There's no cutting corners here. I think it actually suits Canada, who has a strong MLS contingent because the MLS season wraps up in the fall. They've kind of moved it a little bit forward because of the World Cup being played in November. But there's no concerns like heading into the January window, right, Andy, where like the January window, the players are out of season. There's no concern about that. You know, they'll be wrapping up a long season, but I think it's easier to maintain than stop than start again. So I think it actually is an okay thing for the MLS players. And there's probably going to be more players, MLS players on Canada than any other nation. And that's including the United States in this tournament. So I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
We mentioned earlier Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi and just the two stars, the two faces whenever you head into a big global event in the World Cup and, you know, eyes will be on them, pressure will be on them. But how about a coming out party as well? We can see this really truly being an introduction to the world. And it feels kind of strange saying this about Alphonso Davies because in fact, you know, TSN in part of their pregame coverage here to the draw had shown that a marketing company was able to prove that of the top Canadian athletes globally, Alphonso Davies actually tops that list. This was, you know, a story that was covered by their senior sports writer in Rick Westhead, because this is where I think the dichotomy is. We know he's a global superstar. We know I just don't want to, and I don't think he's going to fall into that same category as Atiba Hutchinson, right? The most famous Canadian, not famous in Canada. But something else was brought up that was pretty interesting. And Rick Westhead also went on to say that, you know, Alphonso Davies does have a contract with Nike, a sponsorship, right? Jonathan David does have one with Adidas, but yet neither of those companies have featured them in national campaigns in Canada either. It still seems to be hockey players. I wonder if his performance at the World Cup could completely blow through that ceiling as well. And now in Edmonton, I get it. They love Connor McDavid. They love Leon Draisaitl. This is a nation that loves their hockey. But especially Alphonso Davies' own hometown, do you think we'd be able to look up one day and also see his face there within Canada, Ollie? Like, how much could this World Cup completely change that type of marketability for him in his own country?
Yeah, it will. It almost certainly will, I think. And I don't think it will even take us actually getting to the World Cup and seeing him play at the World Cup for that to happen. I think it will be in the weeks and months preceding the World Cup. Alphonso Davies is going to be everywhere you look. I'd be very surprised. Something's wrong if he's not, right? Because he's going to be playing on the biggest stage in sports. He's going to be wearing a Canadian jersey. And he has so much talent and so much ability to create, you know, moments that go around the world. So if you're not trying to associate yourself with Alphonso Davies in Canada before the World Cup, then I don't know what you're doing. But that's another part of the interest. Like, I was going to add this on when we were talking about it earlier. Like, when you talk about Roberto Martinez saying that, you know, Canada's a bit of a dangerous team, does anyone... I think Alphonso Davies is the best player in pot four. I'm trying to think of if I'm missing anyone here, but is there anyone better than him in pot 4, I can't think of anyone. And so that's kind of like
Thomas Partey's pretty good. Like, I don't. But we're talking about something completely different with Alphonso Davies. It's a player who's playing left back with his club. Like, he's a left back with his club. This guy should be playing up for, like, it's about his persona. Like, he has double the amount of Instagram followers than any other Canadian athlete. Like,
his TikTok is through the roof.
Football is just like a completely different audience beyond hockey or any other, top Canadian sport. And that's not to depreciate the value of those athletes. In this country, we've lived it our whole lives. It's been difficult being part in Canada soccer. Not enough money invested. The corporations slow to be jumping on board, but now they're realizing the power that these athletes actually have, which is a good thing. It's going to be monetized. The business of Canadian soccer is growing, and One Soccer is obviously a big part of that as well. Andy, don't you think, though? I mean, you've dealt with athletes going to Olympics. They go through so much PR and media training in order to be able to handle that event. That is going to be a significant challenge for John Herdman, for himself, for his players, because they're going to have a platform, a spotlight on them like never before. Watch some of the documentaries about the England national team or Brazil or Argentina and the circus that follows these countries and all the pressures and distractions that come along with it. I don't necessarily think that's a great thing for on the field because it adds another layer, right? You try to control as much as you can. How much availability do you want these players to have to take advantage of this growth and interest in Canadian soccer versus let's keep our mind on the game. Let's focus on the task at hand here. This won't be easy. This is unlike anything that any Canadian athlete has gone through before. Like the ones that can compare, Mike Weir winning the Masters. I don't know. There's so few that will draw the attention that these 23, 26 athletes are going to experience at this World Cup. It's going to be really interesting and something that Herdman absolutely needs to take into consideration.
Yeah. I think it would be a mistake to ignore, deny, push out, or not be a part of the circus. And let me explain that, because I think a lot of times, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be within your team and you shouldn't be insulated to a certain extent because you have to stay focused, but the circus is actually part of the tournament, right? And we're just using the word circus, but we know what it is, right? The media attention, the fans, the constant writing of articles, the interviews that are being requested, the shows that are going to be done, the top 10s, the countdowns, the great features that are going to be done. If you know that that's coming, that's always part of it, and you find a way to embrace it. The key is to find balance. The key is to not push it out because it's going to be there. And no matter how hard you try to insulate yourself, at some point you're going to walk out onto the streets of Qatar or you're going to walk out onto the pitch and it's going to come at you like a tidal wave. Control the wave is what I'm saying here, right? Don't deny, don't push away, don't try to ignore the fact that attention is coming your way. Find a way to embrace it, harness it, and make the most of it. Now, there's only so much you can do to prepare. To your point here, Gareth, I've spoken to a lot of Olympians, and they do their best to prepare for all of that. They have sports psychologists on hand for just that. The volume of interviews that go up, right? The demand for your time, demand for your attention, the sponsors who suddenly become involved and they want a part of your life. You're going to get pulled in different directions. They have sports psychologists who also help them with that, and they do the best they can. But they all say that it doesn't matter. There's something special. Nothing can prepare you to walk into that athlete's village and see all the other flags and see all the other athletes from all these other countries as well. And then the moment you step onto your field of play, the roar of the crowd, right? And there, you just see your flag. It's so different. It's so different from pro sports to just represent your country. And I think this is going to be really special. And you're right. Like that's going to be a task for John Herdman. Like I said, putting them in environments where they're subjected to different kinds of energy. But nothing will prepare them, though, for the first time they step on that pitch against Belgium.
What happens is oftentimes, like, it's just a natural human characteristic. Athletes in a team setup will start worrying about themselves. And this team's spoken about the brotherhood, what keeps them together, what makes it different. You just need to make sure, even when it comes to your squad selection, Ollie, for this tournament, What kind of characters are going to be the proper teammate, are going to put we before me in the tournament? I don't think it's just as simple as picking your best 23 players for Qatar.
No.
John Herdman needs to get the mix of players right. And if he doubts the character, not that there's bad apples, but perhaps people that might be a little bit more vulnerable to everything that's going to be thrown your way, I think that comes into the squad that he will select for this tournament. He needs to get it right in terms of the right mix and who's going to be able to handle it.
Yeah, the mental aspect is massive. There's no question that you're both right about that. But I also don't really worry about it too much because I think Herdman is so good at managing that side of things.
I think I think he'd worry about it though.
Maybe, but I think he is very, very good at managing that side of things. And I also think these players take it in their strides. Like, and you got to remember that, okay, this is the first time they're going to a World Cup. And for some of the players in the squad, it's going to be a big step up and maybe more of a worry that they have to handle it in the right way. But Alphonso Davies has won the Champions League. Like he plays for Bayern Munich every single week. That is intense pressure. And that is real criticism as well when he doesn't play well. Whereas when you compare that to the Canadian media, it's not going to be like the English media. The Canadian media is going to support this team. You know, it's not going to be like
We're a bunch of softies. Are you kidding me? We are a bunch of softies when we talk about this team.
It's not going to be the English tabloids who go
actively. Yeah, Gareth, we're nowhere near that.
Yeah, but no, it's not about being susceptible to criticism. It's being susceptible to praise. That's what it is. It goes to your
sure.
Why am I not playing and that player is? Like these sorts of things. Like, look, John learned some lessons with the women's national team and the pressures of having a home World Cup and players not playing who thought that they should have played. And what happened there? They were knocked out of the tournament prematurely. I think he will use that experience, take it with him, understanding getting those character relationships right is imperative to team success.
Yeah. I don't mean to dismiss it at all. You're right. It's a massive part of this team's success or failure. I just think they have the tools and they have the personalities that they can handle that side of it. And I think they'll be okay.
Well, and they've proven it. I mean, gentlemen, let's not forget from the very start of this World Cup qualifying campaign a year ago, we were very much having conversations about who is he going to call into the squad. And one name that kept coming up was Scott Arfield. And this is not to say anything against him, because I think we all understand the beatings that he took, you know, as a member of this team and coming on in. And he just is, you know, getting older and just said, listen, I can't do it. Now, of course, this team ends up, you know, the trajectory ends up going through the roof. But, and I'm sure Herdman has had more behind the scenes conversations with him, but Herdman just acknowledged it. Like at some point, you were not with this team for the first round. You were not with this team for the second round. Now you're going to bring somebody in. And, you know, I'd love to still talk to Junior Hoylett about this, but I remember, Gareth, you putting out a tweet one time mentioning something about Arfield and Hoylett just, it didn't look like it was something that was accepting.
He put a blue cap. Not that what I was saying was incorrect, but that the whole idea that Arfield could be welcomed back into the team, that was going to happen. That
whole cap thing was what I learned too. I didn't realize that was the lingo that the youth. Yeah, the youth.
I think the blue bit is not really part of it. It just happens to be blue.
No, it was the whole cap or no cap. But the bottom line is that this is a team, to your point though, and the reason why I bring that tweet up is just it's acknowledgement that they have created something and that they didn't want this type of disruption to the chemistry. And John Herdman has respected that.
There's nothing like hardcore Canadian football supporters. There's nothing that they like more than a potential dual national, right? Like there's nothing on the planet that they like more than that. And there's going to be Marcelo Flores, his name is going to be out there. Does he make his decision between now and November if he wants to represent Mexico or Canada? Because that's actually a realistic name that's put out there, that there's a decision to make. It looks like a player that could potentially be on that level, right? Like there will be names that pop up over the course of the process. How much are you willing to add to this group in terms of a player of potential quality versus someone that you know that what you're getting from them, right? You know how they fit in the team concept. You know what they can contribute to the group. It's a great question, and we're going to go through it, and the rumor mill will churn, and names will be thrown out there, and I can't wait. It's going to be great. As long as it's a name that can actually play for Canada, that's the one stipulation. But there will be names who are absolutely in that mix.
And the other question for Herdman as well on that front is how much are you willing to promise, right? Like, are you willing to say to Marcelo Flores, I will put you in my World Cup squad? Or, should that has to be on merit, right? You can't, I don't know if you can make that promise even for a player as talented as he is. So that's a tricky one to manage.
If you make a spot for Ismail Kone, Ollie, then there's certainly a spot for Marcelo Flores. That's the way that I look at that.
There's going to be some tough conversations because I wonder how many players. So we were talking about the players who were not part of this process, right? And Herdman didn't want to disrupt chemistry. What about players who have been part of this process, but maybe aren't players that make the ultimate team? Like we've seen them in the first, second round, seen them a little bit here and there in the Oct. I don't know. Now, Atiba is a player. I feel like that decision will be made by himself. He's already said, if my body holds up, hopefully I'll be there. He's got his spot. Yeah.
I'd be shocked.
He has his spot. But I don't know. Like, what about some other players that were on the inside or, they were on the inside, now they're on the outside, kind of on the bubble? Those are some tough conversations, I think, as well, that John Herdman is going to have to make as well, because Stefan Eustachio's really stepped up in that midfield. Who knows, to your point, what Kone will end up doing. Ike Ugbo coming on in. What does that mean for other players? What does that mean for Samuel Piet? I don't know. What does that mean, for other players on that back line? Is it Derek Cornelius going to be there? I don't know. What bubble players he might have to have some tough conversations with,
Great
right?
question, Andy.
Yeah. I think that a lot of that comes back to what Wheels mentioned earlier as well, about having a group where you've got some guys who are maybe not going to play massive minutes, and they're going to accept that, and they're going to be great teammates. And that with a Lucas Cavallini, with a Sam Piet, those guys are going to be great teammates no matter what their role is at the World Cup. And I think that does play into your decision, even if you think as a Canadian fan, well, these guys haven't played a ton in the qualifiers, and Cavallini's been in a much better place previously with his club than he is right now. I do think that comes into the decision. I think it should come into the decision that you need 23 or 26 players or whatever it is who are all going to pull together, right? And I think fitting into that is a few players who maybe probably aren't going to start a game, but they're going to be great in training, they're going to be great in the group, and they're going to do whatever you need and ask them to do. Witherspoon is another one I think who could have a chance of coming back in if he can get fit, because he's that type of player and personality.
Yeah, I mean,
VIP's here, Andy? The VIP's here, I believe.
Oh, is he here? Oh, let's not let him.
His hair was looking magnificent on the broadcast. I got to tell you that much. And his outfit was very Wheeler-esque. I just want to say, I think I wore it this week.
Yeah, that's exactly. He looked at your fashion. I believe John wakes up every day and says, "What did Wheeler wear today?" Because that is my fashionista. That is my inspiration. Yeah, sure. So John Herdman's going to be joining us momentarily. I do believe he's there. Maybe they're just doing some setups behind the scenes. I want to show him that photo again. If he remembers, I'm sure he remembers 2014 World Cup and how great that coverage was by him. More than anything. But if you're joining us right now, of course, we've been taking you through this. KJ and Charlie were with you from the beginning, doing the watch party for the draw. Canada does get drawn into Group F. So they are with Belgium, Morocco, and Croatia. So fitting that, they make the World Cup for the first time since 1986, and then they save the best for last. Literally the last country to be drawn. The name going up. We're all sitting here waiting, sweating up a storm. And they end up getting drawn into Group F. But there was a scary moment there, and I'm curious to get Herdman's reaction. At least for us, I think there was a scary moment where they could have been drawn into Group E, which has Spain, Germany, and Japan in that one. So did they avoid? I don't know.
There he is.
Yeah, but they're all right. So busy. Look at all these messages he's checking. He's getting everyone texting him.
He's a busy man.
We caught you, John. Welcome into the show. I don't even know how you're digesting the day. Maybe let's just go a little bit more big picture with you and what this whole process has been like, watching the ceremony start, watching all these legends take to the stage and putting their hand in the pots to pull it out. And then, of course, you're the last country. What has this all been like for you?
Well, all I heard was you mocking my fashion and saying I copy Gareth Wheeler.
Looks great.
Gareth is claiming. He's claiming
I think he was trying to pay you a compliment.
It was a compliment, was it? Oh, okay, thanks. No, I'm joking. No, it's been a wonderful moment. I mean, to be up on the panel there with Jules, who's bled for this country, and then just us talking, we're saying like we're in the pot, like our ball's going to come out. You know, how many years have we sat and had to watch this draw and support the other team that most Canadians support? They can put all of those shirts in the draw this time, especially the Italians. They can put them in the draw and just put their Canadian shirt on and enjoy it, Miss Petrillo.
Okay, but hold, can I confess? So if anyone's ever seen my Zoom calls, this was Italia. That was here.
It was, yeah.
That is now Canada. You are very right. But hey, I was always cheering for the Canadians too.
It's true. I mean, you know, we get that chance. I mean, my vivid memories were '86 World Cup of the whole family in a room, packed together, and just experiencing that hand of God moment, which broke everyone's heart. You know, the moment that I've dreamed of is that one where Canada scored its first ever goal at a World Cup, and the whole country from coast to coast erupts. You know, there'll be granddads, grandmas, grandparents, they're the same, kids. You know, you can just see it. That, you know, people having barbecues and it's winter time in Canada, isn't it? Eh? But anyway, they'll be having a bloody great time, and the country will go off when that moment happens. You know, David, Laren, I don't know who's going to score it, but it'll just be a seminal moment for our sport.
Well, if there's one thing this weather has taught us in Edmonton, and then of course on Sunday, I think Canadians will continue to celebrate even in the cold. But John, as much as we're embracing this moment and loving it, you know the wheels already start turning, and I know that's the same for you, and we're already starting to look ahead. What do you want to see happen for your team? What are the types of teams you want to play against as you prepare for Qatar?
Look, there's layers to this, Andy. I think, you know, having been in those dual roles all my career, where you're in a development director type role, you understand the impact the World Cup can have on a country, on a sport. So I'd like to be selfish and just say everything we do is going to be for this team, to get them prepared. But it's deeper. You know, we've got to look at the commercial opportunities. We've got to look at, you know, how we can maximize the finances that can flow and trickle in through the grassroots. So, you know, some of the decisions will be absolutely technical, and others will be about how we grow this sport. But what we do know is we've got Nations League, so we have to go back through the whole CONCACAF process again, of maybe even flying to Suriname and playing Panama away again. I mean, this is on our doorstep in June. I mean, to be fair, we'd like to be playing, you know, those type of teams, African or Asian or European, but we'll take out of that experience what we can. That might be a chance to blood some new players, test some new players, test some tactics. But we will get a chance in June to play a friendly match, I've got no doubt, and we'll push hard to get a good friendly game here in Canada. But I think September, given the realities of Nations League in June, means we have to get offshore. We're going to have to get offshore, base ourselves in Europe. We've not had that European experience in Europe for 4 years, where we know we can attract top level opponents for a friendly match. So that's where we'll be selfish around the team and make sure we get what we need. But June, it'll be about, you know, being back in our country, taking some learnings and opportunities we can, but, you know, allowing the fans to just experience our team.
Ollie?
Yeah, speaking of Europe, John, two really interesting European opponents. Obviously, teams with enormous quality, enormous experience, who have been deep at World Cups. But maybe also, and I don't mean to underestimate them in any way here, but maybe also teams that are a little bit older, and might have been looking at 2018 as their real big chance to win a World Cup. When you contrast that with the youth of your team, does it give you a bit of an opportunity when you look at those matchups?
Look, I love your mindset, Ollie. We have to look at everything glass half full. We've got to look at every opportunity that presents itself. I just think Canada, we keep our feet on the ground. We recognize our first World Cup in 36 years. We're going to go in there. Everything's an opportunity. Everything. To have from the first experience, the training experience, players feeling the cadence of a World Cup to get themselves ready for a home World Cup. But to take this moment, to take it against a Belgium and a Croatia, people like Alistair Johnston, Kamal Miller will get a chance to play against Lukaku, De Bruyne. You know, Jonathan Osorio, Stefan Eustáquio to put their wits against Luka Modric. I mean, those moments individually are seminal moments, opportunities for people to show the world. But then as a collective and then as a country to play these type of teams, just opportunity, real opportunity as an underdog to do something that puts Canada so high on the football map.
Mm-hmm. Gareth, did you want to go?
Nothing to fear, right, John?
No fear.
Nothing to fear here. And
it's excitement.
Sometimes the order of games plays a significant role in how a team's journey plays out through the competition. What do you make of the fact you play Belgium first, Croatia second, then Morocco?
Well, I think Belgium, they'll really put preparation into Canada. I think that's it gives them a little bit of a head start with their quality. I think sometimes you get Belgium in the last game, and the last game they haven't done the same layer of preparation. So they'll be ready for us. There's no doubt that there's 7 days of prep to win your first game, which there'll be massive pressure on that team to beat the underdog Canada. Huge pressure. That there's nothing to gain in that game for a Belgium team, outside of 3 points. And for us, there's everything to gain, everything. So we get, I guess, 7 days of preparing for me, one of the top 3 teams in the tournament. And that's critical there, where we can really put our tactical acumen and then build the spirit and the chemistry around the opportunity of playing the second, third best team in the world. We'll be ready for that game. That's going to be a cracker.
It's funny because fans are already coming up with their dream pre-tournament friendly scenarios, right? And oftentimes it's about teams that play in a similar region. Well, your native England drew the United States. Is that a phone call that you would want to make to call the English Football Association?
Well, would
that be a friendly something to look out for?
My agent's Gareth Southgate's agent, so I might just have to see if I can work some magic there. So, who knows? No, I think England usually have their games already locked in like 3 years in advance. But I think it's definitely a good opportunity going into Europe. We need to play some big games here, Gareth. I'll never put my personal, dreams ahead of the team. Like, we've just got to be smart. There are teams that have a similar profile to Belgium that I can see in Europe already that you would say, okay, that's a team. That's something that, the Dutch, I think, have a similar profile to Belgium. You could, target and be more specific. But it's whether teams want to play Canada. That's the next thing. There are layers to this. It's really a complex process. Maybe next World Cup, we're not, begging teams for a match. They're begging to play Canada. So it'll be a tough run through to get what we need. But I said this in my interview. The most important time is the 10 days prior. Like anything, we can do anything, but we never know if that player is going to be there. As I said, we did half of this qualifying campaign without Alphonso Davies, even on the field. So I don't know what I'm building my tactics around until my players are there. And I can't guarantee that until the 10 days when they all get into camp. Now you build the chemistry, the team spirit, the tactical excellence, and we're ready to go. That's what I've learned on my international experiences. These next windows, I think it'll be about seeing if there are any players in MLS that are lighting it up that might be able to push into the 23, or, some players in Europe that we've been trying to coax to come back to Canada, maybe to give their time in those windows. People like Ayo Akinola coming back from injury. There's a lot of unanswered questions I've got around my squad. And I said this to the players at the end of the Panama game in our final meeting. The 23 men that got us here may not be the 23 men that get us there. And they have to make good decisions now around their career and take it up to another level, because it will tell a story.
Well, John, we were actually discussing that before you came on, and you've been so bang on with your selection. And as you know, fans, they play GM as well, which is so great in how they get involved, because before every window, there's always been, is this going to get called in? Is this player going to get called in? But you've managed to manage your players so well and saying, this guy may come in, you may not be playing. How is that something that you're going to have to navigate as well? Because you've just said you've had players who got you through those first 3 rounds who may not be a part of it. Like, how huge is that a factor in how you coach this team and making sure everyone is as mentally strong as they can be come Qatar?
Well, I think it was setting it up as these missions. You know, there was a group of men that were going to earn the right to qualify for Qatar. They've just made history. They've left an unbelievable legacy for their country. Now they've got to earn the right to be at Qatar. You know, to be in that 23. They qualified us. They've took our country there, but they've got to keep earning that right. And that's New Canada. That has to be the new standard. You know, I've played a lot of players through this period. I think over 35 players have came into that squad and represented. And each of them have told a story when they've been in. Even that game against Panama, you know, I'm already thinking about which players do I need to still see that I need to get tested, I need to learn some more about. So, you know, while people were looking at the selection there, I was looking at it through a different lens of, yes, we've got to rotate players and get freshness, but I also needed to see, you know, players that hadn't had minutes and who've been on this journey, where are they at?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I can't imagine how tricky that'll be for you. But again, like I said, throughout this whole process, you've pretty much nailed it, which has been absolutely spectacular. Yep. How much as well are you going to sit down right now and start to look at those other 3 teams and the way they play? And I know it's a question we always ask. How are you going to approach that team? And I know a lot of times the response, at least in the past that I've gotten from coaches, is we're not going to worry about them. We play our game. But how much do you look at the way they play?
You can't. You can't not worry about your opponent. I mean, this is, I mean, the art of war. I mean, what we don't get to control is the terrain, which is what we've been able to control in these last matches against USA and Mexico at home. You know, that's out of our control. So, you know, tactically, we're going to have to be spot on. But you can't overthink the tactics because there'll be coaching changes in the next 6 months. You never know. You would never have thought the Spain coach would have changed the night before the tournament started in the last World Cup. You know, players will get injured. Star players won't make it. You know, people that you've built strategies around. So there's an initial scouting phase and a tactical blueprint preparation for those teams. And then you go through the tactical blueprints for the teams out of the tournament. But you've got to leave yourself space to think. You've got to leave yourself the creative space to be adaptable. And that's even with your own team. Like I say, did I know Alphonso Davies was going to be there? You know, in those 7 games against the US today, of course, Fonzie's playing USA at home. And then he's not. He's not there.
Yeah.
So you have to worry about yourself, but leave yourself space to think. But all of the work's got to be done on the opponent. Like, you have to know them inside out and then be ready for whatever comes. I've said this, I think our DNA at this stage in our evolution, we have to be an adaptable team. I mean, that's it. The most adaptable team and adapt to our opponents. That's been our strength, where we can be a bit of a chameleon and make it difficult for them to tie us down and be able to change in game. You know, when you're fighting lions, you can't fight as a lion. That's you know, Belgium are a lion with world-class players in every single position on the pitch. We've got players that are proving they're world-class players. So, you know, for us, we've got to rely an element on the tactics and have a much higher team spirit, which is this pioneering mindset to be first. You know, Belgium aren't going to be first at something. You know, in a group stage, we are. We've got so much to play for, even in a group stage. They just want to get out of it into the next round. We want to score our first goal. We want to keep our first clean sheet. We want to beat our first ever top 10 opponent in the world. It's never happened before. So much for us to get after, and that's what I've got to burn into the minds of our players.
John, before we let you go, I want to show you a flashback photo. This was back at the 2014 World Cup when you were a guest host alongside me.
Look at that young man.
Look at you. And I got to say,
this job does to you.
I looked at that and I just thought, I mean, obviously we never know what the future holds, but I am so proud of you because it was such a pleasure working with you in 2014 because you brought such a different viewpoint of the game. You made our broadcast better. And I can't believe that 8 years later, you've gone from guest hosting as an analyst on a Men's World Cup to coaching in one. How does that feel?
Just anything's possible, eh? You work hard, you fight for what you believe in, and you just don't listen to those doubters. You do not listen to them. You just keep moving forward with your belief in what you can achieve. I mean, I'm a snotty-nosed kid from Consett County, Durham. I mean, what am I doing here in Canada? Talking to you guys about going to Qatar. I mean, holy wow. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, some people don't get better with age. That's for sure.
Stop it.
Oh, come on.
Like a fine wine. Look at
I
what
don't know about that. Wow.
Congratulations, you deserve it. And please do not take your fashion tips from Gareth. We do love our Gareth.
Come on. What's sharp.
Okay,
John,
team.
Have a good vacation.
Yes.
Get rest.
Get that vacation. That is John Herdman, the head coach of the Canadian men's team. Look at that. I mean, I can't even imagine how it's got to feel for him. I'm sure he's still in it. So he'll have a moment where he'll digest everything. Maybe it's when he's on the beach somewhere, who knows, when he takes his vacation. But I also love the honesty as well, because how many times do we get that, guys? And listen, you've been covering sports a long time, just the same as me. Oh, you're taking on so-and-so, right? How do you approach it? We don't worry about them. We just worry about us. Meanwhile, Herdman's like, no, we're going to be doing like graphic charts and spreadsheets and Excel sheets on the opposition. You have to. That is what you have to do to be successful. And I think that's why when you do look at this team, there is this sense of comfort, Ollie, that they're in very good hands.
Yeah, I think that's going to be Canada's X factor in the way Canada can hurt these teams is they are going to be super prepared for every opponent they play, because we know that, you know, Herdman and his team do an enormous amount of work behind the scenes to be prepared for every game. And then they are the underdog, right? So he mentioned it there, that there's not the expectation on Canada that, you know, they're going to go into these games and dominate and have loads of the ball and try and go toe to toe with Belgium. You just can't do that because we just still don't have the quality in this team as much as it's improved to try and do that. So you try and find opportunities, you try and find ways to hurt, identify weaknesses and exploit those weaknesses. And that's something that I think Canada can do against these opponents. Doesn't make them favorites, doesn't mean they're going to win these games guaranteed or anything like that, but it gives them a shot. And I think Canada has, you know, both the kind of structure and then the weapons as well to cause some problems there.
Yeah. Well, this has been, what do you have something?
I've never met anyone like John Herdman before in my life. Just listening to him speak, nothing was handed to the guy at all. He's worked, he's fought, he's scrapped, but having the vision that he does and the ability to read people, not players, but people for who they are, what makes them tick. Then on top of that, just having the tactical mind that he has, we are very lucky to have him in this country. And just hearing him speak there, I mean, you can listen to him all day. Thought it was interesting about the squad, kind of what we were touching on, guys. Just like,
because it's not about who's going to be here. It's more about who's not going to be here. Those are tough conversations he's going to have.
There is some talks that that squads are going to be expanded to 26. We'll see, which would make that job a little bit easier. He shares an agent with Gareth Southgate as well. Like, it's not just about Canada playing a profile of a European nation. England plays the United States. It's like a natural pull. Like, if you're England, who do we want to play that, kind of plays like the United States? Canada would kind of be the closest fit. Those are just my final thoughts on that.
Guys, we're going to be talking about this for another 230 something days because awesome. Canada's going to the World Cup and we get to talk about them. So this is so exciting. Congratulations to that squad once again. And it just keeps churning for this national program, because then the women begin their World Cup qualification process this summer and we are covering it all right here on One Soccer. So big thank you to KJ and Charlie taking you through the viewing party. Thank you to Gareth and Ollie. I'm Annie Petrillo.
You don't want to go to 4 hours? We're 13 minutes off of 4 hours.
That's great. I'm going to toe punt to the finish line right now.
By the way, Ollie, Concert versus Milton Keynes. Who you got?
Concert versus Milton Keynes. I gotta say, I've never been to County Durham, so I can't give a fair opinion. But it's hard to top Milton Keynes for entertainment and attractions and all of these different things.
Unless you're Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah. All right, Ollie, we know you've been
F1
quarantined in
driver.
Costa Rica, but we cannot wait to have you come back home, especially since it's snowing outside. So soak up that heat while you can, because you ain't getting it here in Toronto. Boys, a pleasure. I'll see everybody next week because One Soccer Today, of course, continues. And thank you to everybody. Enjoy the months to come as you get set to cheer on your team for Qatar 2022. See ya.